Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Nightmare Narratives. I am your storyteller, and I'm here to guide you tonight. I know many of you use these videos to drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm always curious. Where are you watching from and what time is it in your part of the world? Now find your cozy spot and relax. My name is Catherine Donovan, but everyone calls me Kit. I've been a ranger at Blackpine Lake for 5 years now, and I thought I'd seen everything these woods could throw at me. I was wrong. It was February 1978, the coldest winter anyone could remember. The thermometer outside my cabin had frozen at 40 below, and the radio said it might drop another 20 degrees before dawn. I was out checking ice fishing shelters, making sure no one was trapped or in trouble. Not that anyone should have been out there. The roads had been closed for days because of the blizzards. The lake was beautiful that day, in a way that makes your heart hurt. Fresh snow covered everything like a soft blanket, and the pine trees drooped under the weight of it. When I breathed out, the tiny ice crystals in my breath made little tinkling sounds, like wind chimes in the bitter cold. I should have known something was wrong. The forest was too quiet. No birds calling, no branches creaking, no small animals rustling in the underbrush. Just silence so deep it felt like a physical weight on my chest. It was only 2 in the afternoon, but the sky was already darkening to a deep purple. Strangest. Good thing. I could see the northern lights flickering green overhead, even though it wasn't fully dark yet. I'd never seen that before. I stood in the middle of that frozen lake, alone for at least a week until the roads would open, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. My supplies were running low. I'd have to be careful. That's when I saw the wolf. It stood on the far side of the lake, pure white against the dark trees. But something wasn't right about how it moved. Too tall, too straight, almost like a person. It watched me with eyes that seemed to glow, then melted back into the trees. The temperature dropped so fast I could feel it, like someone had opened a door to the Arctic. Frost began forming in strange patterns on my jacket, swirls and shapes that looked almost like faces with open mouths. Under my snowshoes, the lake ice groaned. I looked down and swear I saw dark shapes moving in the black water below. My heart began to pound. Something deep in my brain, some ancient part that existed long before words, told me to run. My grandmother, she was Ojibwe, while my dad was Irish. She used to tell me stories about the winter spirits, especially the Wendigo. It comes for those who carry too much death inside them, she'd say, looking at me with knowing eyes. After my parents died in that car crash when I was 12, Grandma raised me. She taught me everything. How to read the forest, how to survive in the wilderness, and the old stories of our people. I have her to thank for the intricate tattoos on my arms, sacred symbols meant to protect me from harm. My cheeks bear the marks of frostbite from a blizzard 3 years back, pale scars that ache when the temperature drops. People say my eyes look older than my 29 years. I guess that's what happens when you've seen the things I have. I carry tobacco and sage everywhere I go. Grandma taught me about the thin places where spirits cross between worlds, and I felt them often enough to keep my offerings close. Around my neck, I wear Jake's ring on a silver chain. Jake Morrison, my partner, my lover, the man I was going to marry, until the avalanche took him last winter while I watched helplessly from 50 yards away. I promised his memory I'd keep living fully, embracing the wilderness we both loved, but some days that promise feels impossible to keep. I know every trail around Blackpine Lake, every hunting path and sacred site. I can read the weather in cloud patterns and know when animals are acting strange. This knowledge kept me alive all these years, and I was proud of it. Maybe too proud. Sometimes I take risks I shouldn't, push too far into storms, climb too high up icy cliffs, as if proving my bravery might somehow make up for the fact that I lived while Jake died. Deep down, I know it's reckless, but I can't seem to stop. Standing there on the frozen lake, I felt something ancient stirring in the forest. Something my grandmother had warned about. A spirit that could be awakened by extreme cold and the imbalance of a troubled soul. I thought my mixed heritage made me stronger, gave me the best of both worlds, Ojibwe wisdom and Irish determination. I didn't realize it made me the perfect target for what was coming. I didn't know that the Wendigo was already watching me and that it was hungry. I headed toward the eastern shore, where most of the ice fishing shelters were set up. The snow crunched under my snowshoes with each step. That sound was the only thing breaking the silence. The first shelter looked normal from outside, a simple wooden hut with a metal stovepipe sticking out the top. But when I pushed open the door, my stomach turned to ice. The inside walls were covered in dark red blood, but not splattered like from an accident. It was painted in careful patterns, symbols I recognized from my grandmother's teachings, warnings about hunger that consumes everything, about the need to eat that never stops. My hands shook as I closed the door. Who would do this, and where were they now? I looked around at the empty lake and forest. No birds circled overhead, no squirrels chattered in the trees. Even the ravens that stay through the worst blizzards had disappeared. Animals know when to run. Moving deeper into the forest, I noticed deep gouges in the pine bark. Not bear claw marks. These were much bigger, 15 feet up the trunk where no normal animal could reach. Sap oozed from the wounds, freezing into red icicles that looked too much like blood. Then the smell hit me. Rotting meat. My stomach lurched. That shouldn't be possible in this cold. At 40 below, everything freezes solid. Nothing rots. Nothing. I followed the awful smell to a small clearing. Scattered in the snow were pieces of fishing gear, a tackle box with Paulson written on it in marker. The Paulson family came up here every winter. Nice folks with 2 young kids. Next to the tackle box lay something white. I bent down. Bones. Human finger bones, gnawed clean. My breath came faster. I pulled out my radio, but instead of static or the emergency channel, it made a horrible grinding sound, like teeth chewing on bone. My GPS went crazy too, showing coordinates that couldn't exist. And my thermometer. It read temperatures so low that no one could survive even a second. Kit! I spun around. That voice. It couldn't be. Kit! Help! Me! Jake's voice coming from across the frozen lake. But Jake was dead, buried under tons of snow and rock for over a year. Please, I'm so cold. I squeezed my eyes shut. Not real, I whispered to myself. Not real. When I opened my eyes, I saw it. A moose carcass at the edge of the clearing. But something was wrong about it. The meat hadn't been torn away like wolves or bears would do. It had been cut. Carefully. Precisely. The pieces arranged in a pattern that made the protective charms. Tattooed on my arms burned like fire. The sky darkened in seconds. Not sunset, a storm. But no normal blizzard comes that fast. The wind howled from nowhere, whipping snow into a white wall around me. Day turned to night in the swirling chaos. I couldn't see more than 3 feet ahead. I headed for what I thought was the ranger station trail. But after 20 minutes of struggling through deep snow, I found myself back at the lake's edge. I tried again, picking a different direction. Same result. Back at the lake, a third attempt. This time I counted steps and kept the wind at my back the whole time. Still, the frozen lake appeared before me, as if the forest itself was pushing me back. That's when I knew for sure. The Wendigo wasn't just a story my grandmother told to scare me into behaving. It was real, it was here, and it was herding me like prey. The blizzard eased just enough for me to see across the lake. That's when I spotted it. A tall figure at least 15 feet high, moving through the swirling snow. Its body was thin, so thin I could see the outline of ribs through its pale skin. It walked on legs like a deer, but too long, too wrong. Its head turned toward me, and even from this distance I could see yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. I felt its hunger like a physical thing, a crushing weight that made it hard to breathe. Those eyes locked onto me, watching, waiting, patient, in a way that only ancient things can be. As it moved closer, I could make out more details I wish I hadn't seen. Its body looked partly human, partly like a deer, with antlers growing from an elongated skull. Its lips were black, like they had been frozen and died. "Kit, come to me." Jake's voice again, but coming from that thing's mouth. My blood turned to ice. "Granddaughter, you know what to do." Now it was speaking with my grandmother's voice, then my mother's, each word dripping with hunger that could never be satisfied. I ran. The creature seemed to guess which way I would go. Every time I changed direction, it was there, stepping, out from behind trees or rising from snowdrifts, like it was made of the blizzard itself. I pulled out my rifle and fired. The bullets froze mid-air and shattered before they could reach it. I tried my hunting knife, but the blade snapped from the cold the moment I drew it. Sometimes it would stand perfectly still, moving exactly like Jake used to when he was thinking hard about something. It would hold out a long, bony hand and beg me to come closer in his voice. Other times, it would scream with rage, tearing apart trees like they were made of paper. Its howl was the worst. When it cried out, my blood felt like ice water in my veins. My lungs burned with each breath. The sound carried the voices of everyone it had eaten, men, women, children, all crying out in endless hunger. I stumbled through the snow, getting more tired with each step. The Wendigo created false trails, footprints leading to what looked like my cabin in the distance. But when I followed them, they led nowhere or back to the lake again. My fingers and toes were numb. My thoughts were getting foggy. Hypothermia was setting in. The creature knew it only needed to wait. The worst. A part was how it used my memories against me. It knew about the avalanche. It knew how I'd watched Jake disappear under the snow. It whispered that I deserved to die alone and hungry, just like him. And part of me believed it. I found myself on my knees in the snow, too tired to keep running. The Wendigo stood over me, its shadow cold and dark. "Join us," it said with the voices of 100 lost souls. "Your guilt made me stronger. Your pain called me here." I looked up at its terrible face and saw something familiar in those hungry eyes, my own reflection, consumed by grief and guilt. That's when I realized what my grandmother had been trying to tell me all along. The Wendigo wasn't just a monster that lived in the woods. It was also the monster that could grow inside you when grief and guilt ate away at your soul until there was nothing left but endless hunger. And I had been feeding mine for a year. The Wendigo reached for me with long, bony fingers. I rolled away just in time, scrambling to my feet. My mind raced, trying to remember everything my grandmother had taught me. The Wendigo can only be destroyed by burning its frozen heart with sacred fire. Her voice echoed in my memory. I had no weapons left, but I still had my emergency pack. Inside was a flare, matches, and the small pouch of sacred tobacco my grandmother had given me years ago. "Keep this close, Kitty," she'd said. "When the spirits come, this will be your shield." The Wendigo lunged again. This time its claws caught my side, tearing through my jacket and into my skin. Pain exploded through. My chest and my lung filled with something cold, colder than ice. Each breath became agony. The creature's attack drove me backward, toward the center of the lake. Ice cracked beneath my feet. Before I could move, it gave way, and I plunged into the black water below. Instead of drowning, I found myself falling into a cave beneath the lake, a hollow space of ice and stone. The walls glittered like mirrors, reflecting my frightened face 1,000 times. But they also showed other things. Jake's last moments, my parents' car crash, my grandmother's funeral. All my worst memories played out on the ice around me. The Wendigo followed, its massive form barely fitting through the opening. In this enclosed space, it seemed even larger, more terrible. "You can't run anymore," it hissed, now using my own voice. I clutched my side, feeling warm blood freeze almost instantly on my fingers. "I'm not running," I said. Something had changed inside me. For the first time since Jake died, I stopped blaming myself. The avalanche wasn't my fault. Surviving wasn't my crime. "I'm still here because I have work to do," I said, my voice stronger. "I have a life to live." The Wendigo shrieked, sensing the change in me. It charged forward. I dodged behind an ice column and fumbled in my pack. My fingers, nearly numb, with cold, found the flare. One shot at this. The cave walls reflected a strange glow, not from the flare, but from something embedded in the ice behind me. A crystalline object about the size of a fist, pulsing with an unnatural light. Inside it, I could see what looked like small flames frozen in time, souls, dozens of them, and one burned brighter than the others. "Jake," I whispered. The Wendigo howled. "He is mine now. They all are. Their warmth feeds me through the endless winter." I understood then. This was its heart. Not inside its body, but hidden here, protected by ice and stone. I had one choice to make. I could destroy the heart and the Wendigo with it, freeing all those trapped souls, or I could join Jake, let my soul be captured in that icy prison forever. For one moment, just one, I considered it. To be with Jake again, even in that frozen hell. The Wendigo sensed my hesitation. "Stay with him," it whispered in Jake's voice. "You know you want to." I looked into the heart again and saw Jake's flame flicker, as if fighting against its prison. Even now he was trying to break free. Even now he was fighting. "No," I said firmly. "He wouldn't want this. I don't want this." I struck the flare against the cave wall. It burst into brilliant red light, momentarily blinding the Wendigo. I pulled out my grandmother's tobacco pouch, holding it to the flare until it caught fire. The sacred smoke filled the cave, and the Wendigo screamed in rage and fear. I threw the burning tobacco and the flare directly at the heart in the ice wall. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ice began to melt, steam rising where no steam should be possible in such cold. The Wendigo lunged for me one last time, its claws slashing at my face. I fell backward as the heart began to crack, light pouring from the fractures. "You'll die here too," the Wendigo hissed. The heart shattered with a sound like thunder. Light, warm, living light, flooded the cave. The Wendigo's form began to dissolve, its bones turning to ice, then water, then nothing at all. The souls trapped in the heart spiraled upward in streams of fire and light. I caught a glimpse of Jake's face, smiling at me one last time before he vanished. The cave began to collapse. Huge chunks of ice fell all around me. I crawled toward the opening, each movement sending waves of pain through my injured lung. Just as I reached the surface, the entire structure fell inward with a deafening crash. I lay in the snow, barely conscious, as dawn broke over Blackpine Lake. The temperature was rising rapidly. Ice melted and cracked all around me. Spring was coming, months too early, as if the Wendigo's destruction had broken winter's grip on the land. Search and rescue found me 3 days later when the roads finally cleared. The doctors couldn't explain my injuries or how I had survived such blood loss and exposure. They also couldn't explain why. Even in the warm hospital room, I couldn't stop shivering. It's been years now. I still work as a ranger at Blackpine Lake. The forest has healed and wildlife has returned. But I've never been warm since that. Day, not really. And every winter when the wind blows across the frozen lake, I hear Jake's voice calling me, not in hunger or rage, but in gentle reminder. Live fully. Keep your promise. And I do, even with the knowledge that somewhere in these ancient woods, in the coldest, darkest corners where people never go, new Wendigos are always waiting to be born from grief and guilt and endless hunger. But now I know how to fight them. Both. The ones in the forest and the ones we carry inside ourselves. My name is Michael Redcloud. I'm 38 years old, and I've been a ranger in the Black Hills National Forest for almost a decade now. Tonight's my patrol, and I wish I could say it was like any other night, but that would be a lie. I'm walking along the pine-covered ridges, my flashlight barely needed because of the full moon above. It's the brightest moon I've seen in years, maybe decades. My people, the Lakota, have always said this land hums with ancient power. Tonight, I can feel it in my bones. The sounds around me are what I love most about night patrols. Coyotes are singing to the moon somewhere in the distance. The wind is pushing through the tall ponderosa pines, making them sigh like they're telling secrets. It's nature's own special music, and it usually helps calm my troubled mind. Usually, this is sacred ground to my people. When I walk here, I feel close to my ancestors. Sometimes I think that's why I took this job, hoping these quiet patrols might somehow ease the guilt that's been eating me alive for too long. But something's wrong tonight. 1 minute, the forest is alive with sound. The next, nothing. Complete silence falls like someone flipped a switch. No insects buzzing, no owls hooting, even the leaves stop rustling. It's like the whole forest is holding its breath, waiting for something. I look up at the moon again and feel my heart skip. The bright white moon is now turning a deep blood red as it climbs higher in the sky. The crimson light casts strange shadows that seem to move on their own, not matching the trees or rocks that should be making them. I reach for my radio to call this in, but it's been dead since sunset. I'm on my own out here, and the nearest backup is 40 miles away on dangerous mountain roads. Not that they'd make it in time if something happened. That's when I see it, a magnificent elk standing in a meadow up ahead. At first, I feel relieved to see another living thing, but something's off. Its eyes. They're too smart, too knowing. No wild animal has ever looked at me that way, like it can see right through me. Thunder rumbles overhead, which makes no sense because the sky is perfectly clear. Then lightning flickers without a single cloud in sight. The world doesn't work this way. Natural laws don't just break. I try to find my way back to my truck, but the trails aren't right. These paths I've walked for years suddenly lead to dead ends or dangerous cliff edges. The recent earthquakes must have changed things more than we realized, but this feels deliberate. The air around me feels heavy, charged with something I can't explain. My grandfather would have said it's power, ancient power waking up after sleeping for centuries beneath Pine Ridge. Something is very wrong in these woods tonight, and I have a terrible feeling that whatever it is, it's been waiting for me. I wasn't always scared of the dark. Growing up on the reservation, my grandfather taught me to respect the night, not fear it. I'm full-blooded Lakota, raised on the old stories. Before I joined the army, my grandfather showed me the ways of our people, how to track, how to listen to the land, how to see what others miss. But that was a long time ago, before Vietnam changed everything. I touched the scars on my chest without thinking. The bullets missed anything important, but the memories didn't. 20 years have passed since I lost my whole squad in that ambush. Everyone died except me. I survived by hiding while my friends were killed. Some nights I still wake up screaming, their faces clear as day in my mind. Stop it, I whisper to myself, forcing those thoughts away. The forest is quiet enough to hear my own heartbeat. When I came home from the war, I was broken. I tried to drown the nightmares with alcohol. That's why I wasn't with my wife and daughter the night a drunk driver hit their car. The night I lost everything that mattered. My hands start shaking again, partly from the memories, partly because I haven't had a drink in 3 days. I've been trying to stay sober, but it's hard when the guilt follows you everywhere. I reach into my pocket and touch my grandfather's small medicine bundle. I don't believe in much anymore, but I carry it hoping someday I might find some kind of peace. Next to it, strapped to my belt, is his war club, a simple wooden handle with a round stone head, wrapped in leather strips with eagle feathers hanging. From it, my grandfather said medicine men blessed it long ago. I bring it on patrols, more for comfort than protection. A twig snaps somewhere behind me and I spin around, my heart racing. Nothing there, but I can't shake the feeling of being watched. Under normal circumstances, I'd feel at home here. I know every cave, spring and game trail in these hills. I can track anything that leaves a mark, but tonight, for the first time, I feel like I'm the one being tracked. The truth is, part of me doesn't care. Since losing my family, I've looked for danger, hoping for an honorable end that would let me join them without the shame of giving up. But something about tonight feels different. This isn't the kind of danger a man walks away from. I try to laugh at myself. I'm a former soldier with 20 years of wilderness experience. What could possibly be out here that I can't handle? The blood-red moon catches my eye again, and a chill runs down my spine. I'm about to find out just how wrong I am. I've been walking for about an hour when I spot something strange ahead. In a small clearing between the pines, someone has arranged bones in a perfect circle. Human bones. They form what my people call a medicine wheel, with a lightning-struck pine tree at its center. The tree is still smoking, though there hasn't been a storm in weeks. My mouth goes dry as I approach. This is wrong. All wrong. The forest feels empty around me. Normally you'd hear crickets, maybe an owl, or small animals moving in the underbrush. But there's nothing. Like all the wildlife knows to stay away from this place. I kneel to examine the ground and notice something else. Deep marks cut into the bark of nearby trees, about shoulder height. They look like claw marks, but they're massive, wider than my hand. Caught in one of the gouges are tufts of coarse black hair. Without thinking, I reach out to touch them. The moment my fingers make contact, I feel a burning sensation and pull back with a hiss. That's when the smell hits me, like wet dog mixed with something rotten. It's so strong and sudden that my stomach turns. I've gutted elk and tracked week-old carcasses without flinching, but this smell has me doubling over, throwing up my dinner. Wiping my mouth, I spot something colorful under a bush nearby. It's a child's backpack, torn and stained dark. Next to it, a small pair of hiking boots. I remember the report about a missing family, Mom, Dad, and their 8-year-old daughter. They were supposed to be camping near here. The boots are filled with dried blood. My compass is useless now, spinning wildly in circles. My watch has gone crazy too, the hands moving backward. I try the radio one more time and jump when it crackles to life. But instead of dispatch, I hear what sounds like wolves howling, except the howls form words I almost understand. I drop the radio when I hear a woman's voice call my name. Michael. It's Sarah's voice, my dead wife's voice. Then comes the high, sweet sound of a child's laughter, my daughter Emma's laughter, echoing from somewhere deep in the trees. This isn't real, I whisper, pressing my palms against my eyes. Get it together, Michael. When I open my eyes again, I see something that makes my blood run cold. About 50 yards ahead lies the body of a bull elk, or what's left of it. The animal has been torn apart, but not by normal predators. The meat hasn't been eaten. It's been carved away with almost surgical precision, and the marks on the bones aren't from claws or teeth, but from hands. A thick fog begins rolling in, though the air is still and dry. It doesn't make sense. The mist carries that same wet fur stench, only stronger now. Inside the fog, shapes move like shadows, tall and quick, circling just beyond where I can see clearly. I turn to head back the way I came, but nothing looks familiar anymore. Trails I've followed 100 times now twist in strange directions, leading me deeper into the forest instead of out. It hits me that I'm being herded, pushed toward some specific place. The red moon overhead seems to pulse, like a giant heart beating in the sky. My grandfather once told me about places where the barrier between worlds grows thin. Places where ancient laws still hold power. I think I'm being led to one of those places now. I stop at the edge of a small clearing, my lungs burning from running. The blood-red moon hangs directly overhead now, casting everything in a strange crimson light. That's when I see it, standing on the far side of the clearing. It's shaped like a man, but much taller, maybe 8 feet. But it's not a man. Its body is covered in thick black fur. Its face is long like a wolf's, with a mouthful of teeth that gleam in the moonlight. It stands on 2 legs, watching me with yellow eyes that shine with something I never expected to see in an animal. Intelligence. I know what this is, though I've never believed the stories until now. The old people on the reservation call them Shankar Warakin, the dogmen. The creature tilts back its head and howls. The sound is like nothing I've ever heard, part wolf, part human scream from different directions in the forest. 3 more howls answer. They're talking to each other, coordinating, hunting me. I reach for my service pistol, but something stops me. A voice speaks from the shadows. "Grandson, have you forgotten everything I taught?" "You?" It's my grandfather's voice, exactly how I remember it, but my grandfather has been dead for 15 years. The tall dogman steps forward, its mouth moving with my grandfather's words. "The gun will not help you here, Michael," it says, still using my grandfather's voice. "This is a battle for your spirit, not your body." 3 more shapes emerge from the fog surrounding me. They're like the first one. Massive wolf men walking on 2 legs, with human-like hands ending in sharp claws. They move with a strange grace, circling me with perfect coordination. I fire my pistol at the nearest one. The bullets hit it square, in the chest, but it barely flinches. It just cocks its head like I've done something amusing. With shaking hands, I pull my grandfather's war club from my belt. The stone head gleams strangely in the red moonlight. When I hold it up, the creatures back away slightly, caution in their yellow eyes. "Michael," one calls in the voice of my old squad leader from Vietnam. "Why did you hide while we died?" Another speaks with my wife's voice. "Why weren't you with us that night, Michael? Why were you drinking instead of driving us home?" The third uses my daughter's voice, high and sweet. "Daddy, why did you let us die?" I grip the war club tighter, fighting back tears. "Stop it," I growl. "You're not them." They continue circling, always just outside my reach, taking turns speaking, with the voices of everyone I've lost, testing me, tormenting me. The largest one, the leader, steps forward again. "We have been waiting for you, Michael Redcloud," it says, no longer using my grandfather's voice, but something deeper, older. "Watching you run from your pain, watching you hide from your purpose." The creatures let out a howl together that shakes me to my core. I feel it vibrate in my chest, calling to something wild and primal inside me. They're herding me again, I realize, pushing me toward a specific place. I recognize where we're heading now, an ancient Lakota burial ground, high on Pine Ridge, a place where the old stories say the wall between worlds is thin. "What do you want from me?" I shout. The leader pauses, yellow eyes fixed on mine. "You abandoned your people's ways," it says, "abandoned your spiritual duties. Tonight you will be judged." With that, they close in, forcing me to run toward the ridge. I clutch my grandfather's war club, my only protection against whatever waits for me at the ancient burial ground. I realize with sudden clarity that I'm not running from death anymore. I'm running toward it. My lungs burn as I climb the steep path to the top of Pine Ridge. The dogmen stay just behind me, herding me forward. I know where we're going now. This is the highest point in the Black Hills, a place where my ancestors came to seek visions under the full moon. My grandfather brought me here once, when I was just a boy. I reach the summit, a flat area about the size of a basketball court, surrounded by ancient pine trees. Stone markers form a circle here, placed by my people hundreds of years ago. The blood-red moon seems huge now, hanging directly overhead. The pack spreads out around me, blocking all escape routes. The leader steps forward, its yellow eyes glowing in the crimson light. "You never completed your vision quest, Michael Redcloud," it growls. "You ran from your pain instead of facing it. You abandoned your people's ways." And suddenly I understand. This isn't just a random attack. This is the vision quest I never finished, the one my grandfather started with me before I left for Vietnam. The test I've been avoiding my entire adult life. "I'm not running anymore," I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. The leader lunges at me with shocking speed. Its claws rake across my ribs, tearing through my jacket and shirt. The pain is like fire, but different from any wound I've ever felt. It burns not just my flesh, but something deeper, my spirit. I swing my grandfather's war club, but the creature easily dodges. I'm fighting the wrong battle, I realize. These creatures aren't testing my ability to fight. They're testing my courage to face what I've been running from. My mind flashes back to my grandfather's teachings about honor, about responsibility to the tribe, about carrying the burden of knowledge. The leader attacks again, and this time I don't dodge. I drop the war club and stand straight, facing the creature. "I've been a coward," I say. "Not in Vietnam. I couldn't have saved them. Not with Sarah and Emma. Their deaths weren't my punishment. They were just a terrible accident." My voice breaks. I've been a coward because I've been trying to die, instead of living with my pain and helping others. The leader pauses, tilting its head. I pick up the war club again, but this time I feel something different. The wood seems to warm in my hand, and the stone head begins to glow faintly blue against the red moonlight. "I accept my responsibility," I say, and swing the club. This time the weapon connects. The leader howls in pain as the glowing club strikes its shoulder. The sound is deafening, and a burst of blue light flashes where the club makes contact. The creature stumbles back, wounded not just physically but spiritually. We circle each other, neither giving ground. The other dogmen watch silently, witnesses to this ancient test. The leader attacks again and again, but now I meet each strike with one of my own. My grandfather's war club leaves trails of blue light in the air with each swing. With a final desperate lunge, the leader exposes its chest. I bring the club down with all my strength. There's a blinding flash of blue light and the creature collapses. I stand over it, breathing hard, ready to finish the fight. But instead of attacking, the remaining dogmen drop to all fours. They lower their heads, not in defeat, but in respect. The leader looks up at me, intelligence still burning in those yellow eyes. "You have passed the test," it says. "You have faced your shame and found your strength. Now you must choose." "Choose what?" I ask. "You can join us, lead the pack, protect the sacred boundaries, or you can return to the human world, forever. Changed, forever aware of what walks in the shadows." I look at the creatures surrounding me, then up at the moon, now fading from red back to silver. I think of the missing hikers, of others who might wander these woods unprepared for what waits. "Here, I'll return," I say finally, "but I'll protect this place. I'll be the guardian between worlds." The leader nods, then reaches up with one clawed hand and places it on my chest, directly over my heart. The pain is intense but brief. When it removes its hand, I see a paw print burned into my skin. Not a wound, but a mark like a tattoo. "You will sense us now," it says. "You will know when the veil thins. You will guide those who should leave and help those who belong." One by one, the dogmen fade into the shadows until I'm alone on the ridgetop. But I'm not the same man who started patrol earlier tonight. I can feel something new inside me, a connection to this land, to the creatures that protect it, to the ancient power that flows through the Black Hills. As the first light of dawn breaks over the eastern horizon, I begin the long walk back to my truck. My radio crackles to life, dispatch asking for my location. The world is returning to normal, or what passes for normal. But I know now what walks in these woods when the moon is full. I know my purpose now. I am Michael Redcloud, ranger, veteran, survivor, and now guardian of the boundary between worlds. Some burdens you run from your whole life, only to find they were your strength all along. My name is Vincent Caldwell. I've been a ranger at Ozark National Forest for nearly 7 years now, but what happened to me on Devil's Ridge back in '62 still haunts me every night when I close my eyes. The morning started like any other patrol. The sun was just peeking through the trees, and a soft mist hung around the old oaks like ghostly curtains. I remember the sound of mourning doves calling to each other across the hollow, a sad, beautiful sound that seemed to echo how I felt inside. I walked along the creek, listening to the water babbling over moss-covered rocks. Squirrels chattered overhead, jumping from branch to branch. Everything seemed so peaceful, so normal. Looking back, I realized the forest was trying to fool me, lulling me into a false sense of safety before it showed its true face. It had been 6 months since I lost Margaret to cancer. 6 months of an empty house and a cold bed. The forest was the only place I felt anything close to peace anymore. I foolishly thought these ancient trees might somehow heal my broken heart. The first sign that something was wrong came around 9 that morning. I suddenly noticed how quiet everything had gotten. The insects stopped buzzing. The birds went silent. It was like someone had turned down the volume knob on the whole forest. The silence made my skin crawl in a way I can't really explain. The thick canopy of trees blocked out so much sunlight that even though it was morning, it felt like dusk. Shadows seemed to move between the trees, dancing like they were alive. I told myself it was just my imagination playing tricks. I checked my radio, hoping to hear another human voice, but there was nothing but static. I was completely alone out there. 20 miles from the nearest road with no backup coming for 3 days. I'd never felt so isolated in my life. A red fox darted across the path ahead of me. At first I was happy to see some wildlife, but then I noticed something off about it. The way it moved was wrong somehow, too careful, too planned. And when it looked at me, those eyes, they seemed almost human, watching me with an intelligence that sent a chill up my spine. The weather turned strange too. Fog started rolling in thick and heavy, even though the forecast had called for clear skies all week. Before long, trails I'd walked 100 times became confusing mazes of grey. Nothing looked familiar anymore. I had to watch my step carefully. Devil's Ridge is known for its limestone formations, full of hidden sinkholes and caves. The recent rains had made the shale paths slippery as ice, and one wrong step could mean a broken ankle, or worse. As I pushed deeper into the fog, the air changed. It grew heavy and thick, carrying the smell of something rotting. Dead leaves and animals, maybe. But there was something else mixed in. Something worse. And no matter which way I turned, I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching me from the mist, following my every move. I should have turned back right then, should have trusted my gut, but instead I adjusted my pack and kept walking, completely unaware that I was heading straight into a nightmare. I guess I should tell you a bit about myself, so you understand why I did what I did. Before I became a ranger, I was an army medic in Korea. I patched up a lot of boys over there, stopped the bleeding, held their hands, told them they'd be okay even when I knew they wouldn't. The one I couldn't save was my best friend Tommy. He bled out right in my arms in a frozen foxhole while I begged him to hang on. I still hear him calling my name in my dreams. When I came home, I tried to put the war behind me. I married Margaret, my high school sweetheart, and we had good years together. But then the cancer came. 6 months of watching her waste away, and all my medical training couldn't do a thing to help her. Her last words to me were, "Promise me you'll find peace, Vincent. Don't let the darkness win." I became a park ranger, hoping the quiet woods would help me forget. Turns out you can't outrun your memories. They follow you like shadows, even into the wilderness. I'm not what you'd call handsome. My face is weathered, from years outdoors, with grey hairs at my temples even though I'm only 35. My hands are rough and calloused, and they shake a little when I'm not keeping them busy. I walk with a limp from a piece of shrapnel I picked up in Korea. The doctors wanted to remove it, but I told them to leave it be. Some wounds are meant to stay with you. That day on Devil's Ridge, I wasn't completely alone. I had Rex with me, a bloodhound Margaret gave me before she died. He was usually eager to follow any scent trail, but that morning he was acting strange, whining nervously and refusing to go in certain directions. I should have listened to him. In my pocket, I carried Margaret's silver locket with our wedding photo inside. Whenever I felt anxious, I'd rub my thumb over it. A small comfort in a world that suddenly seemed very wrong. I thought I knew every inch of Devil's Ridge, every cave, every stream, every animal path. I'd walked these trails for years. But that day, nothing looked right. Places I knew should be there weren't. Landmarks seemed to have moved overnight. I told myself I was just confused because of the fog. Looking back, I realize how stubborn I was. Ever since failing to save Tommy and Margaret, I've had this drive to help others, to make things right. It's gotten me into trouble more than once. That morning, standing in that unnatural fog, I had a sinking feeling that whatever was happening on the ridge was going to test me worse than anything I'd faced before. But I pushed that feeling down. I told myself I was ready for anything these woods could throw at me. After all, I'd survived war. I'd survived watching my wife die. What could be worse than that? I was about to find out just how wrong I was. As I checked my compass and adjusted my path, Rex suddenly froze beside me. His ears perked up and a low growl rumbled in his chest. That's when I knew something was watching us from the trees, something that didn't belong in these woods. Or maybe something that had always been here, waiting for someone like me to wander too far off the safe paths. I remember the exact moment everything changed. I came into a small clearing and stopped dead. In my tracks, there around a massive oak tree was a circle of bones, not just scattered like you'd expect from animal kills, but arranged in careful patterns, like someone had placed each one deliberately. Some were small, rabbits, squirrels, birds, but others were bigger, human-sized. My mouth went dry. My mind tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was some kids playing a prank, or maybe a bear had dragged its kills here, but bears don't arrange bones in circles, and they don't use human bones. That's when I noticed the silence. The forest had gone completely quiet, not even the sound of wind in the leaves. Rex stood frozen beside me, his ears flat against his head, tail tucked between his legs. I'd never seen him so scared. I knelt down to look closer at the bones, and that's when I spotted the claw marks on the trees. They were about 15 feet up, way too high for any bear or mountain lion. Whatever made those marks had to be enormous. The gouges were deep, too, like they'd been carved with metal rather than claws. A smell hit me then, the worst thing I've ever smelled, like meat left out in the sun for days, mixed with something chemical, like the formaldehyde we used in the army medical tents. It was so strong I had to cover my mouth to keep from throwing up. I decided to head back to the ranger station. Something was very wrong here, and I needed to report it. But as I turned to leave, something caught my eye. A backpack hanging from a branch about 20 feet away. It was torn, like something had ripped through it with enormous strength. Below it, the contents were scattered: a water bottle, a map, some energy bars, and a small stuffed rabbit toy. It was soaked in what looked like dried blood. My heart pounded. There had been no reports of missing hikers or campers. No one should have been this deep in the park. I reached for my radio to call it in, but all I got was a high-pitched shrieking sound that hurt my ears. I checked my compass, but the needle just spun wildly, never settling on north. Even my watch had stopped working, frozen at 9:33 a.m. "Rex, come on, boy," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to head back." That's when I heard it, a voice calling my name from deeper in the forest. Vincent. It was Margaret's voice, my dead wife's voice. Vincent, please help me. I felt like someone had dumped ice water down my back. It couldn't be her. She was gone. I'd watched them lower her coffin into the ground. It's not real, I whispered to myself. It's not real. I started walking faster, pulling Rex along, trying to find the trail back. But after 15 minutes, I came across something that made me stop again. A deer lay on the ground, but it wasn't like any animal kill I'd ever seen. The cuts were clean, surgical almost. Its organs had been removed and placed around it in a strange pattern. Its bones looked crushed to powder in places, like something had squeezed them until they shattered. The fog grew thicker until I could barely see 10 feet ahead. I tried to follow the trail back the way I came, but it led to a dead end. I tried another path, but it curved around and brought me right back to the deer carcass. A third trail led me deeper into the ridge instead of out. That's when I realized something impossible. The forest was changing around me. Paths that should lead out were leading in. It was like the woods themselves were herding me towards something at the center of Devil's Ridge. I checked my gun, a standard issue service pistol I kept from my army days. 6 bullets. Not much, but it was something. Rex whined and pulled at his leash, trying to go in one direction. I decided to trust him. After all, dogs can sense things humans can't. But even as we started moving, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone anymore. Something was in these woods with us. Something that knew my name, knew my pain, and was playing with me like a cat with a mouse. And I was heading right into its trap. I'd been walking for what felt like hours, following Rex as he sniffed his way through the fog. The sun should have been high overhead by now, but the light never changed. It stayed dim and grey, like permanent twilight. That's when I saw it for the first time. Between 2 tall oaks about 50 yards ahead, something moved, something big. I caught just a glimpse. Pale, long limbs that bent in ways arms and legs shouldn't bend. It was there for just a second, then gone. But what I saw looked like skin. Human skin stretched over something that wasn't human at all. "Hello!" I called out, my voice shaking more than I wanted it to. "Is someone there? Do you need help?" No answer. Just the sound of Rex whimpering beside me. He was looking everywhere except in the direction where I'd seen the thing, like he was afraid to even look at it. I felt eyes on me, not just from one direction, but from everywhere, like the shadows themselves were watching me. I kept my hand on my gun, though a voice in the back of my mind told me it wouldn't do any good. Then I saw it clearly. It stepped out from behind, a large rock about 30 feet away. I've tried many times to describe what I saw that day, but words always fail me. It stood at least 9 feet tall, its body a horrible mix of parts that didn't belong together. Pieces of what looked like human skin were stitched to animal hides with what looked like dried tendons or veins. Where its eyes should have been were just empty sockets, but they glowed with a sickly greenish light, like the phosphorescence of rotting wood. Hanging from its body were necklaces made of finger bones and teeth. Some looked human, some didn't. "What do you want?" I managed to ask, though my mouth was so dry the words barely came out. It didn't answer, not with words. Instead, I heard Margaret's voice again, coming from that thing. "Vincent, why didn't you save me? You let me die." Then it changed too. Tommy's voice, the exact words he'd said as he died in my arms in Korea. "Don't let me go, Vince. Please, it hurts so bad. Don't let me go." Then other voices, patients who had died while I tried to save them. One after another, people I'd failed. The creature knew them all, knew exactly what they'd said, knew exactly how to hurt me the most. I pulled my gun and fired. The bullet went straight through the thing like it was made of smoke, hitting a tree behind it. I fired again and again. Nothing happened. I turned to run, pulling Rex with me. But somehow, the creature was ahead of me on the trail, waiting. I turned another way, and it was there, too. No matter which way I ran, it was always ahead of me, herding me deeper into the woods. Sometimes it would stand perfectly still, just watching me from a distance. Other times, it would rush at me with incredible speed, stopping just inches away, those glowing sockets staring into my eyes. I tried to use my knife, but when I swung it at the creature, the blade turned brown with rust the moment it touched that pale skin. The creature rattled the bone necklaces it wore, creating a sound that reminded me horribly of Margaret's breathing in her final hours, that terrible rattle that tells you death is near. The fog thickened and thinned at the creature's will. Paths appeared and disappeared. I'd find myself walking in circles, always ending up back where I started. The thing was playing with me, enjoying my fear. Worst of all, it forced me to relive every death I'd ever witnessed. I'd suddenly find myself back in that Korean foxhole, holding Tommy as he bled out. Then I'd be in the hospital, watching Margaret take her last breath. Then back in the field hospital, trying to save soldiers with wounds too terrible to survive. Every failure, every loss. The creature fed on my pain, growing stronger with each memory. After hours of this torture, I found myself at the entrance to a cave. Rex refused to go near it, pulling hard against his leash in the opposite direction. But I knew somehow that this was where I needed to go. This was the heart of whatever evil lived on Devil's Ridge. "It's okay, boy," I told Rex, trying to sound braver than I felt. "We'll face this thing together." As I stepped toward the cave entrance, the creature appeared one more time, blocking my path. It tilted its head, like it was curious why I wasn't running anymore. I took a deep breath and stood my ground. "You want me?" I said. "Fine. Let's end this." The bone necklaces rattled as the thing leaned down toward me. Its mouth, if you could call it that, opened in what looked almost like a smile. I stepped into the darkness of the cave, Rex reluctantly following. The creature's glowing eye sockets were the last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed us whole. Inside the cave, I could barely see a thing. I clicked on my flashlight, and the beam revealed walls covered in more bone arrangements, thousands of them, from tiny mouse bones to what could only be human skulls. Some were so old they were nearly dust. The cave floor sloped downward. I had to watch every step. There were holes everywhere, some small, others wide enough to swallow a man whole. I shined my light down one and couldn't see the bottom, just darkness and the glint of more bones far below. "Easy, Rex," I whispered, keeping him close. His whole body trembled against my leg. As we moved deeper, I started to understand something about the creature. Every time it showed me one of my failures, every time it made me relive a death, it seemed to grow stronger. It was feeding on my guilt, my pain, my regret. That's when I remembered Margaret's last words. "Don't let the darkness win." She hadn't just been talking about my grief. Somehow she'd known. Maybe in those final moments when they say people can see beyond the veil, she'd sensed what waited for me here. I realized what I had to do. I had to let go of my guilt. I had to forgive myself for not saving Tommy, for not curing Margaret, for all the lives I couldn't save. Easier said than done. The cave opened into a larger chamber with a ceiling so high my flashlight couldn't reach it. The floor was uneven, riddled with those bottomless pits, and there, in the center of the chamber, stood the bone collector. It was even more terrifying in the confined space of the cave. Those long, wrong limbs nearly touched the walls on either side. The green glow from its eye sockets cast a sickly light over everything. "I know what you are now," I said, my voice echoing in the chamber. "You feed on guilt and death. You've been doing it for years, maybe centuries." It rattled its bone necklaces in response. "You're not going to feed on me anymore," I said. "I did everything I could for Tommy, for Margaret, for all of them. Their deaths weren't my fault." The creature let out a sound like a hiss mixed with a scream. It didn't like what I was saying. It lunged forward suddenly, one of those impossibly long arms swinging toward me. I tried to dodge, but I was too slow. Its claws, more like long, sharpened bone fragments, raked across my chest. The pain was immediate and intense, like being cut with a burning blade. I fell back, clutching my chest. My hand came away red with blood. Rex barked furiously, putting himself between me and the creature. Brave, loyal Rex. I pulled myself to my feet, feeling the warm blood soaking my shirt. The wounds burned like they were infected, though they were just seconds old. I forgive myself, I said, louder this time. Do you hear me? I forgive myself. The creature screamed again, a sound that made my ears ring. But I noticed something. It seemed smaller somehow, less solid. My words were hurting it. I reached into my pocket and pulled out Margaret's locket. The silver gleamed in the flashlight. Beam! Margaret loved me, I said, holding the locket toward the creature like a shield. Her love was real. It still is, and that's something you can never take away or feed on. The locket seemed to glow with its own light. When I held it toward the bone collector, it recoiled as if burned. It lunged again, desperate now. I ducked, but Rex wasn't so lucky. The creature's claws caught him, lifting him into the air. Rex! I screamed. What happened next still haunts my nightmares. The creature tore into Rex, my loyal friend, my last gift from Margaret. I heard his yelp of pain, saw his blood spray across the cave walls. The bone collector's screams of rage mixed with Rex's cries of pain. Something broke inside me then. Pure rage replaced my fear. I grabbed my emergency flares from my pack and struck one alight. The red glow filled the cave. The creature dropped Rex's body and turned to me, those empty sockets somehow showing surprise. I threw the flare at the bone collection that filled one corner of the cave. The dry, ancient bones caught fire immediately. Then I lit another flare and threw it at a different pile. The fire spread quickly, racing along the walls where smaller bones were arranged. The bone collector shrieked, rushing from one burning pile to another, trying to save its collection. The cave started to rumble. Rocks fell from the ceiling as the fire weakened the cave's structure. I knew I had to get out. I looked for Rex, hoping against hope he'd somehow survived. But in the red glow of the fire, I could see his broken body, lying still on the cave floor. "I'm sorry, boy," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I turned and ran for the entrance, dodging falling rocks and jumping over widening cracks in the floor. Behind me, the bone collector's screams grew more desperate as its collection, the source of its power, burned to ash. The entire cave system was collapsing. I could barely see through the smoke and dust, but somehow I found my way back to the entrance. I burst out into the forest just as a final rumble shook the ground and the cave entrance collapsed completely. I fell to my knees, coughing and bleeding, my chest on fire from the creature's claws. But I was alive. That's when I heard it. A dog barking from inside the collapsed cave. It was impossible. I'd seen Rex die, but the barking continued, echoing from somewhere deep underground. It sounded just like him. I called his name, but there was no way back into the cave. Eventually, the barking faded away. The fog lifted, the forest returned to normal, birds began to sing again. I found my way back to the ranger station, where they patched up my wounds and asked a lot of questions I couldn't answer. No one believed my story, of course. They blamed my injuries on a bear attack and my confused state on blood loss. But 3 weeks later, I found a circle of small bones around my cabin. And sometimes at night I hear Margaret's voice calling from the woods, and Rex barking, waiting for me to come find him. I still have Margaret's locket and my service pistol. Some nights, like tonight, I stand at the edge of the forest, wondering if I should go in, if I should follow those voices. Are they traps set by a creature that somehow survived? Or is there something after death, some place where Margaret and Wrecks are waiting for me? I don't know the answer, but someday I think I'll walk back into those woods to find out. For now, I just wanted someone to know my story, to know what's waiting in the darkness of Devil's Ridge. So if you're ever hiking in the Ozarks and the forest goes quiet, if you feel eyes watching you from the shadows, turn around. Head back to safety. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some hunters aren't meant to be found. My name is Elena Vasquez, and I've been working as a ranger at Ghost Canyon for 5 years now. It's a beautiful place. All red rocks and ancient cliff houses where people lived hundreds of years ago. But what happened to me there last summer still gives me nightmares. That morning started like any other. I woke up before sunrise, packed my gear, and headed into the canyon. As the first light turned the sandstone walls gold, the air was cool against my skin, but I knew it wouldn't last once the desert sun climbed higher. As I walked deeper into the canyon, I ran my fingers along the rough rock walls. This place always felt special to me, sacred really. Being Mexican-American and working on Navajo land, I've always tried to show respect for the traditions. Here, I speak some Navajo, not perfectly, but enough to talk with the elders. I believed that respect would keep me safe. I should have known better. The first weird thing I noticed was the silence. Ghost Canyon is never completely quiet. There's always wind whistling through the rocks, birds calling, little lizards scurrying around. But suddenly everything just stopped. No wind, no animals, nothing but the sound of my own heart beating in my chest. Then came the thunder. The sky was perfectly clear, not a cloud anywhere, but I heard it rumble through the canyon. Like a giant's footsteps, lightning flashed without making any sound. I tried calling base camp on my radio, but all I got was static. Not unusual in the deeper parts of the canyon, but it felt different this time, more complete, more deliberate. I was completely cut off. That's when I saw the coyote. At first I thought, good, at least there's still some wildlife around. But as it got closer, something felt wrong. It didn't move right. It was too tall, too stiff, and it stared at me with eyes that seemed too smart. Not animal eyes at all. I shivered despite the growing heat. Flash floods are the biggest danger in places like this. Storms miles away can send walls of water rushing through these narrow passages with no warning. I knew all the escape routes, but recent rock slides had changed the paths. What was once safe might now be a dead end. As I looked up at the ancient cliff dwellings, I couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching me, like something old and angry had woken up inside them. I touched the silver bracelet on my wrist, the one that belonged to my twin sister, Carmen. Hermanas siempre was engraved on it. Sisters always. It's been 2 years since she disappeared. The police found her bloody clothes, but never her body. They said it was a serial killer, but I've never felt like I got the whole truth. That's the real reason I'm so obsessed with my job. If I couldn't protect Carmen, at least I can protect this place. I know every inch of Ghost Canyon, every ruin, every wall painting, every hidden spring. Or at least I thought I did. I carry Carmen's memory with me everywhere. Catholic saints' medals in one pocket, Navajo turquoise in the other. I've always lived between worlds, trying to bridge different beliefs. Carmen was the same way. As I hiked deeper into the canyon that morning, I felt a strange certainty growing inside me. It was Carmen. Somehow, I could feel her presence here, which made no sense. Carmen never visited Ghost Canyon. She was afraid of high places. I should have turned back. Any smart person would have. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Carmen was trying to tell me something, and I had to know what it was. I touched my neck, running my fingers over the small birthmark we both shared. Carmen and I were identical in almost every way. Same dark hair, same brown eyes, same smile. The only people who could ever tell us apart were each other. As I rounded the bend to my favorite spot in the canyon, I suddenly froze. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I could smell it before I could see it. A horrible mix of rotting meat and sweet sage that made my stomach turn. And then I saw what waited for me among the ancient stones. I never should have come here alone. I never should have ignored the warnings. But it was too late now. Much too late. I moved closer to the ancient burial site, my boots crunching on the sandy ground. Something was very wrong. The small opening in the rock wall had been sealed off for years with warning signs, in English and Navajo. Now the stones were pushed aside, and footprints led inside. Fresh footprints. I took out my flashlight, clicked it on, and stepped inside. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on something that made me stop breathing for a second. The mummified remains, bodies preserved by the dry desert air for hundreds of years, had been moved. They weren't scattered randomly like someone had just broken into steel artifacts. No, they were arranged in a circle, like they were sitting around a campfire that wasn't there. Their dried-out arms were stretched toward the center. They're empty, eye sockets all facing the same direction. I backed up, bumping into the wall behind me. That's when I noticed something else strange. The total silence. Usually in caves like this, you'd hear little critters scurrying away from the light. Spiders, beetles, maybe a lizard or two. But there was nothing, not even flies. It was like every living thing had run away from this place. I needed to document this and call it in. I pulled out my camera and snapped a few pictures, but when I checked them, each one was just a black screen. I tried again. Same thing, just darkness. I changed the batteries, still nothing but black. My GPS was acting weird too. According to it, I was somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and my compass needle was spinning around and around, like it was in a blender. That's when I heard it. Ellie Belly, help me. My whole body went cold. Ellie Belly. Only one person in the world ever called me that. Carmen, my twin sister. And she'd been dead for 2 years. Carmen, my voice echoed, off the stone walls. Carmen, is that you? No answer. Just the silence again. I rushed outside, desperate for fresh air and sunlight. As I stepped into the light, my foot kicked something soft. A backpack. Not just any backpack. I recognized it from the missing persons report. The Peterson family, mom, dad, 2 kids, had disappeared in the canyon 3 days ago. Their stuff was scattered everywhere, like they'd dropped everything and run. Water bottles, trail mix, a child's stuffed rabbit, all abandoned. I crouched down to look closer and saw something pressed into the sand nearby. Handprints, human-sized but wrong. The fingers were too long, the nails making deep scratches in the dirt. Not human nails, more like claws. The smell hit me then, so strong I gagged. It was like rotten meat mixed with the sweet smell of desert sage. I covered my mouth with my bandana, but it didn't help much. I needed to get out of here and radio for backup. But as I turned to head back to the main trail, I realized I didn't recognize where I was. The path I'd taken 100 times before now led to a dead end I'd never seen. I tried another direction, but it twisted around to a part of the canyon I didn't know. That's impossible, I thought. I know every inch of this place. The wind picked up suddenly, spinning dust into a small tornado right in front of me. Inside it, I could hear whispers, not in English or Spanish or even Navajo, but something older. Something I couldn't understand, but somehow still made my skin crawl. The dust devil moved toward me, the whispers getting louder. I backed away, tripping over a rock and falling hard on my back. When I looked up, the dust had settled and the wind was gone. But something else was there now. A deer, or what was, left of one. Its body was laid out on a flat rock, but its skin was gone. Removed with clean, precise cuts like someone had unzipped a costume. Around it, drawn in the sand, were symbols I recognized from Navajo warnings about skinwalkers, evil, witches who could take the shapes of animals or people. My hand went to Carmen's bracelet again. Sisters always. Ellie Belly, came the voice again, so close it could have been right behind me. Come find me. I turned, and what I saw made my heart stop. Standing there, about 50 feet away, was Carmen. My dead sister was walking toward me across the canyon floor, but something was very wrong with the way she moved. Carmen walked toward me, her steps uneven, like someone learning to use their legs for the first time. Her body seemed to sway in ways that weren't natural, as if her joints bent in the wrong directions. "Carmen," I whispered, my voice shaking, "you can't be here. You're dead?" She smiled, but the smile was too wide, stretching farther than a normal mouth should. "Is that what they told you, Ellie Belly?" No one but Carmen knew that nickname. No one. She came closer, and I could see her face better now. It was Carmen's face, exactly as I remembered. The same eyes, the same nose, the same birthmark on her neck that matched mine. But something was deeply wrong with her eyes. They didn't blink, not once. "They never found my body, did they?" she said, her voice perfectly matching the way Carmen used to sound. "Just my bloody clothes." "How do you know that?" I took a step back. "Because I'm your sister." She took another step forward. "Don't you recognize me?" "You're not Carmen," I said, my hand moving to my holster. "Rangers carry revolvers for protection, against mountain lions and other predators. I'd never had to use mine before." "No." She tilted her head at an impossible angle. "Then how do I know about the time we snuck out to see that concert when we were 16? Or how about the boy we both liked in high school? What was his name? Miguel Sanchez. Remember how we flipped a coin to see who would ask him to prom?" My blood turned to ice. Those were real memories, things only Carmen and I knew. "Or how about this?" she continued, her voice turning cruel. "Remember how you were supposed to meet me for coffee the day I disappeared, but you were too busy with work, so you cancelled. If you had been there, maybe I wouldn't have. Walked home alone. Maybe I'd still be alive." Tears burned my eyes, my deepest guilt thrown back at me. "Stop it," I whispered. "You failed me, Elena." She was only a few feet away now. "You weren't there when I needed you most." That's when I saw it. A ripple across her face, like something moving underneath her skin. For just a second, her features seemed to melt and shift before settling back into Carmen's face again. But that brief glimpse was enough to see that whatever was beneath wasn't human. I pulled my gun and pointed it at her. "Stay back. You're not my sister." She laughed, a horrible sound that echoed off the canyon walls. "Are you sure about that? Elena, are you absolutely sure?" Then right before my eyes she changed. Her whole body seemed to blur and shift, and when it stopped, I was looking at myself, perfect in every detail. My ranger uniform, my dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, the small scar on my chin from a childhood fall. "What's wrong, Elena?" My own voice came from the creature's mouth. "Don't you recognize yourself?" I fired my gun. The bullet went straight through the thing wearing my face, but it didn't bleed. The hole simply closed up again, like water filling. In a footprint on the beach. It laughed with my laugh. "That won't work, nothing will." I fired again and again. Each bullet passed through without effect. The creature didn't even flinch. I turned and ran, sprinting down the canyon path, but somehow it was always ahead of me, no matter which way I turned. "You can't run from yourself. Elena," it called, its voice coming from everywhere at once. Then it was Carmen again, standing in my path. Then my mother, then my father. People I knew, people I loved, each one telling me how I had failed them, how I had let them down. "You weren't there for me," Carmen's voice accused. "You never call," my mother's voice scolded. "You're a disappointment," my father's voice judged. I covered my ears, but the voices seemed to come from inside my own head. The thing shifted back to looking like me again. It walked in circles, around me, studying me like I was an interesting bug. "Your memories are delicious," it said, using my voice. "So full of guilt and fear, the best kind." "What are you?" I managed to ask. I am the skin thief, it said simply. I borrow what I need. You killed my sister. It smiled my smile. I wore her for a while. She was useful. But you'll be even better. A park ranger who knows these canyons so well. Think of all the hikers I could help. The way it said help made my skin crawl. It stepped closer, becoming more like me with every second. Not just my appearance, but my mannerisms, the way I held my shoulders, even the way I touched Carmen's bracelet when I was nervous. Stop it, I said, backing away. Stop stealing my life. But I'm not stealing it, the thing said. I'm becoming it. Soon, I'll be a better Elena than you ever were. Suddenly, there were 2 of me standing there. Then 3. Perfect copies, all wearing my face, all claiming to be the real. Elena? Which one is real? They asked in unison. Can you even tell any more? I looked from one to the other, horrified. They were perfect copies, down to the smallest detail. One of them stepped forward. The real Elena would know that Carmen had a scar on her left knee from falling off her bike when she was 10. Another countered, no, it was her right knee. The real Elena would know that. My head spun. I couldn't remember which knee it had been. Was my memory failing, or was the creature stealing even that from me? I touched Carmen's bracelet again. Sisters always. And that's when I realized there was only one way out of this nightmare. I had to find something the skin thief couldn't steal. Something it couldn't fake. Something only the real Elena would know. The 3 Elenas stood around me in a tight circle. I couldn't tell which was which anymore. They all had my face, my voice, even my memories. You're confused, they said together. Let us help you. I backed away, but found myself trapped. The canyon walls rose high on 3 sides, too steep to climb. The only way out was blocked by my own faces, all watching me with hungry eyes. That's when I heard it, a low rumble in the distance. At first, I thought it was thunder. Then I realized the truth. Flash flood. Water was coming. In these narrow canyons, flash floods can rise 20 feet in minutes. We were in a dead-end canyon with only one exit. We need to get out of here, I said, now. After you, one of my copies said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I had no choice. I pushed past them toward the only exit, feeling their eyes on my back. Suddenly, pain exploded across my shoulders. I fell forward, crying out as something sharp tore through my shirt and into my skin. It burned like fire, not like a normal cut at all. I rolled over to see one of the Elenas standing over me, her fingers extended into impossible claws, tipped with my blood. You won't need your skin where you're going, she hissed, her voice no longer sounding like mine. The rumble was getting louder. I could feel the ground vibrating now. I scrambled to my feet, pain shooting across my back. I reached into my pocket, fingers closing around the book of matches I always carried for archaeological work. Next to them was the small piece of turquoise a Navajo elder had given me for protection. A crazy idea formed in my mind. In one quick movement, I pulled out both items. I struck a match and touched it to the turquoise, then threw it at the feet of the Elena who had attacked me. Nothing should have happened. Turquoise doesn't burn, but this time it did. Blue-green. Flames erupted from the stone, spreading in a circle around the creature. As the flames touched it, its shape began to change, flickering between my face and something else, something ancient and horrible. The flames revealed its true form. Not human at all, but something stretched and twisted, with too many joints and teeth that were far too long. "Carmen!" I shouted. "I know you're here! Help me!" I don't know why I called for her. Carmen was dead. But in that moment, I felt her presence stronger than ever. The air around me seemed to shift, and suddenly I wasn't alone in my fight. I couldn't see Carmen, but I could feel her. A warmth at my side, a strength in my heart. "Sisters always," whispered a voice that seemed to come from inside me. The water was getting closer. I could hear it rushing down the canyon now, a wall of brown water carrying rocks and trees. The creature howled, a sound no human throat could make. It lunged at me but seemed to hit an invisible wall. "You killed her," I said, understanding suddenly washing over me. "You killed Carmen to steal her identity." "I wore her well," it snarled, its voice a horrible mix of Carmen's and something inhuman. "Just as I'll wear you." Behind it, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A pile of what looked like empty human suits, skins without bodies, stacked like old clothes. I recognized the Peterson family among them. "You can't have me," I said. The water was at the entrance to our dead-end canyon now, rising fast. I struck another match and threw it at the pile of skins. They caught fire immediately, burning with that same strange blue-green flame. The creature screamed, its body contorting in pain as its collection burned. It rushed toward the flames, trying to save its stolen identities. That was my chance. I ran for the exit, water already swirling around my ankles. Behind me, the creature's screams mixed with the roar of the flood. The water rose quickly, knee-deep, then waist-deep. The current was strong, trying to pull me under. My back burned where the creature had clawed me, the pain unlike anything I'd ever felt. "Keep going," Carmen's voice seemed to say, though I couldn't tell if it was really her or just in my head. I fought against the current, one step at a time. The water kept rising. My lungs burned as I gasped for air, just when I thought I couldn't go any further. My foot found higher ground. I dragged myself up onto a ledge as the water rushed past below, carrying branches, rocks, and something else, something that might have been human-shaped but twisted wrong. I collapsed on the ledge, shivering despite the desert heat. The wounds on my back throbbed with each heartbeat. Hours later, a search team found me. They said I was lucky to be alive, that most people caught in flash floods in the canyon don't make it out. They asked what happened to my back. I told them I fell on some rocks. What else could I say? Who would believe the truth? That was 6 months ago. The wounds on my back never healed right. They left strange scars that burn sometimes, especially at night. I quit my job as a ranger. I couldn't go back to Ghost Canyon, not after what happened there. Sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I see Carmen looking back at me instead of my own reflection. Sometimes I catch myself making gestures that aren't mine, or using phrases I've never said before. And sometimes I wonder if I really escaped that day, if I'm really me anymore. The thing about skin thieves is this: they don't just take your appearance. They take pieces of who you are, your memories, your mannerisms, your soul. I wear Carmen's bracelet every day, sisters always. But when I touch the birthmark on my neck, the one that matches hers, I can't help but wonder, is it really my skin I'm touching, or is it borrowed? And somewhere out there, is there another Elena walking around, one who smiles too widely and never blinks? I may never know for sure. None of us ever really can. After all, how do you know that the face you see in the mirror is really yours? My name is David McCready. I'm 42 years old, and I've spent most of my life in the mountains. This morning, I'm climbing Mount Terror in Glacier National Park, watching the sunrise paint the ice fields gold and pink. It's beautiful up here, peaceful, in a way the rest of the world isn't. The mountain talks to me in its own language. Rocks tumble down in the distance, sounding like thunder. Little marmots whistle from the rocky slopes, warning each other that I'm coming. I smile when I hear them. They're like tiny guards of the mountain. I check my climbing gear one more time and look up at the misty peak. Somewhere up there, I hope to find some peace. I've been climbing mountains since leaving the Navy SEALs 5 years ago. The military took me to mountains all over the world, but never for good reasons. Now I climb to forget. "I'm getting closer, Alex," I whisper, touching the small vial of ashes in my pocket. Alex Chen was my best friend and climbing partner. 3 years ago, we were guiding some rich tourists up a mountain not far from here when the snow came crashing down. I made it out. Alex didn't. They never found his body, just another failure to add to my list. My body reminds me of all I've been through. My fingers, missing the tips from frostbite, grip my ice axe. The metal rod in my left leg aches in the cold. Scars from the IED explosion in Afghanistan crisscross my back. But physical pain is easier to handle than the memories. I pull out Alex's Buddhist prayer beads from my pocket, rolling them between my damaged fingers. He believed these mountains were sacred. Maybe that's why I keep coming back, hoping to find what he saw in them. The weather shifts suddenly. The wind dies completely, which never happens at this altitude. The temperature drops fast, too fast, and I can feel it in my metal leg first. A strange fog rolls uphill against all the laws of nature I know. That's weird, I mutter, checking my watch and seeing the hands spinning backward. Above me, the peak of Mount Terror seems darker now, like it's blocking the sun, even though it's a clear morning. The shadows around the summit grow deeper, swallowing the light. I try my radio to check in with the ranger station. Nothing but static. I pull out the satellite phone, our backup for emergencies. Instead of a signal, it emits a high-pitched noise that makes my teeth hurt. It sounds almost like screaming. That's when I notice the mountain goats. These animals are fearless, born to live on impossible cliffs where nothing can reach them. But now they're running downhill in panic, abandoning territory their families have held for generations. Their eyes are wide with terror. Snow begins to fall upward, from the ground toward the sky. Thunder rumbles, but it's coming from under my feet, not above. Every instinct I have, every lesson the mountains have taught me, tells me to turn back. But I keep climbing, because somewhere on this mountain, I think I might find Alex. And maybe, finally, forgiveness for letting him die. Little do I know, the mountain has been waiting for me. The higher I climb, the stranger things get. At 10,000 feet, the mountain doesn't feel right anymore. Something is off. I stop to catch my breath near a glacier that I've passed dozens of times before. The ice looks different today, darker, with weird shapes inside it. I step closer, scraping away some frost with my glove. I jump back, almost losing my footing. There's a face in the ice, a human face, frozen in a silent scream. "What the hell?" I whisper, my breath making small clouds in the freezing air. As my eyes adjust, I see more shapes in the glacier. Bodies. Climbers from long ago, perfectly preserved in the ice. But they're not arranged like they fell. They're twisted in impossible positions, like something was playing with them before they froze. I've been climbing mountains for 20 years. I've seen bodies before. Death is part of life up here. But this is wrong. I try to steady my breathing like they taught us in the SEALs. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Stay calm. Think clearly. That's when I notice the silence. Mountains are never truly quiet. Ice cracks, wind howls, snow shifts. But now there's nothing, just a heavy silence pressing against my ears. I look down at the fresh snow and freeze. There are footprints, big ones. They lead straight up a vertical cliff face, like whatever made them can ignore gravity completely. The smell hits me next. Up here in the cold, things don't rot, they preserve. But the stench of death fills my nose, like I'm standing in the middle of a battlefield, not on a clean mountain peak. I spot a splash of bright orange against the white snow. An old climbing pack, half buried in ice. The style is from the 60s, and the label reads, Ericsson Expedition, 1962. I remember reading about them. 5 climbers who disappeared on Mount Terror, never found. I dig out the pack and find a journal inside, its pages stiff with ice. I flip it open, hands shaking from more than just the cold. Day 4. We heard it again last night. The screaming thing in the ice. Hansen thinks it's just the glacier moving, But glaciers don't follow you. They don't whisper your name. My blood turns to ice when I read the last entry. It's not part of the mountain. The mountain is part of IT. I put the journal away, trying to make sense of things. My watch has stopped completely. My GPS shows coordinates for a place that doesn't exist on any map. My altimeter reads 20,000 feet, impossible for a mountain that tops out at 14,000. David! I spin around, nearly dropping my ice axe. That voice, I'd know it anywhere. Alex? My voice cracks. It came from inside a deep crack in the glacier. Alex's voice calling for help. But that's impossible. Alex died 3 years ago in an avalanche miles from here. David, help me. I step toward the crevasse, knowing it's stupid, knowing it can't be real. But what if it is? What if somehow Alex survived? What if he's been trapped all this time? I peer into the blue-black depths of the ice crack. Something moves down there, shifting in the darkness. The storm comes out of nowhere. 1 second, clear skies. The next, a wall of snow slams into me with such force that I'm knocked to my knees. No natural storm moves like this. When I look up, everything has changed. The familiar path I was following now leads to a sheer drop. Routes I've climbed a dozen times before now end in walls of jagged ice. It's like the mountain itself is rearranging, turning into a maze designed to trap me. And somewhere nearby, I hear the sound of ice cracking, like massive footsteps coming closer. I fight my way through the blizzard, each step harder than the last. The snow isn't falling naturally. It's swirling around me like it has a mind of its own, trying to push me toward the peak. That's when I see it. Through the curtain of white, a massive shape moves. At first, I think it's just part of the mountain, a tower of ice catching the light wrong. But then it turns. It's huge, at least 12 feet tall. Its body looks like ice, but not normal ice. It's like a sculpture made of frozen chunks with darker shapes inside. As it gets closer, I realize with horror what those shapes are. People, frozen climbers, dozens of them, their faces and limbs sticking out from the ice like they're trying to escape. No, I whisper. This isn't real. But I can feel it watching me. 2 points of blue light burn in what must be its face. Eyes like small blue flames. Inside a skull of clear ice, I back away slowly, my training kicking in. Stay calm, find cover, look for a weapon. The thing stops about 50 feet away. Then it opens what must be its mouth. David! The voice that comes out isn't its own. It's Alex's voice, perfectly clear, coming from a frozen body embedded in the creature's chest. My friend's face, preserved in ice, his mouth moving like a puppet's. Join us, David. It's peaceful here. No more pain, no more guilt. I feel sick. This thing is using Alex against me. It's using all of them, all the climbers it's taken over the years. What are you? I manage to ask, my voice shaking. The creature tilts its massive head, ice cracking with the movement. I am Yuki Onna, it says, now speaking with many voices at once. Spirit of mountain, collector of souls. You have fed me with your guilt for years, David Macready. Now I will have the rest of you. It knows my name. It knows about my guilt. I turn and run, but the snow beneath my feet shifts, making me stumble. The creature doesn't rush. It moves with slow, deliberate steps, ice cracking with each movement. It doesn't need to hurry. The mountain itself is on its side. I reach for my ice axe, thinking maybe I can fight it. But when I swing, the metal head shatters against its frozen body, breaking like glass. My climbing rope freezes solid in my hands, snapping when I try to bend it. I fire an emergency flare directly at it. The red light hits the creature and simply goes out, like a match dropped in water. The Yuki Onna laughs, a sound like an avalanche starting. Your tools cannot harm me. I have existed since the first snow fell on these peaks. I have consumed the heat and life of hundreds like you. It reaches for me with a massive hand made of jagged ice. I leap back, but not fast enough. Its fingers brush my arm, and instantly burning pain shoots through me. Looking down, I see my sleeve has turned white with frost. The skin beneath is turning black with frostbite. I need to think, need a plan. The creature controls the mountain, the weather, the ice, but there must be a weakness. There's always a weakness. Why haven't you killed me yet? I ask, trying to buy time, backing. Toward a ridge I know well. The thing tilts its head again, ice bodies creaking inside it. Your pain is delicious, it says. Your guilt feeds me. Each climber who comes with darkness in their heart makes me stronger. That's when I understand. This thing has been feeding on my guilt over Alex's death for years. Every time I climbed, blaming myself, hating myself, I was making it stronger. The creature suddenly moves with frightening speed, sending an explosion of ice shards in my direction. I dive behind a rock, but not before several slice into my leg and side. Run, little human, it says, its voice now a chorus of all its victims. The hunt makes the meal sweeter. I look up at the summit of Mount Terror, now shrouded in unnatural darkness. Something tells me that's where I need to go. Not down the mountain to safety, but up, to the very peak where this thing is strongest. Because that's also where it might be vulnerable. As if reading my thoughts, the Yuki-onna lets out a scream that shakes the entire mountain. The sound freezes the blood in my veins and triggers a massive avalanche to my left, closing off the path down. The only way now is up. Blood freezes on my side where the ice shards cut me, but I keep climbing. Each handhold, each step takes everything I have. The wind fights me, pushing me off balance. The snow tries to trip me. The mountain itself doesn't want me to reach the top. But I've climbed in worse conditions. At least, that's what I tell myself. You're only making it stronger, a voice whispers. Not the monster this time, my own thoughts. Your fear, your pain, it's feeding on that. I try to calm my breathing, to clear my mind. What was it Alex used to say when we faced a tough climb? The mountain doesn't care if you conquer it. It only cares if you respect it. I pull out his prayer beads again, clutching them in my frost-bitten hand. The pain helps me focus. The temperature drops even further. My breath freezes in the air. Before me, ice forms on my eyelashes, but I keep moving. David, why do you run from me? The voice comes from everywhere and nowhere. Alex's voice, but wrong, hollow. I've been waiting for you. We can be together again. I grit my teeth and ignore it. That's not Alex. Alex is gone. The path ahead narrows to a knife-edge ridge. On either side, a drop of thousands of feet into darkness. One wrong step means death. In normal conditions, I'd rope up for safety. But my rope is useless now, frozen, solid in my pack. I step onto the ridge, moving slowly, carefully. The wind howls around me, trying to push me off. Ice forms under my boots, making each step treacherous. Halfway across, the Yuki-onna appears on the other side. Its massive body blocks the path completely. There's nowhere to go but back or down. Impressive, it says, ice body shifting. Inside it as it moves. Most run down. You climb up. You think you can defeat me at my strongest point. I think, I say through chattering teeth, that even monsters have rules. You're bound to this mountain somehow. To the summit. The creature's blue fire eyes narrow. Clever human. But knowing changes nothing. You will still die here. It raises its arms, and the entire ridge begins to shake. Cracks appear in the ice beneath my feet. I drop to my hands and knees, clinging to the narrow path as pieces break off and fall into the abyss. I need to get past it, need to reach the summit. That's when I notice something. In the center of the creature's chest, where all the frozen bodies seem to join together, there's a blue glow, brighter than the rest of it, like a heart of sorts. And embedded in that glowing center, I can see Alex's face. His eyes closed, peaceful, as if sleeping. Alex, I whisper. His eyes open. Not in the monstrous way the other frozen faces move when the creature speaks through them. This is different. His eyes focus on me, recognize me. David. His voice is faint, distant, but it's really him. Help me. The Yuki-onna roars, a sound that triggers a small avalanche down the slope behind me. It knows something is happening, something it can't control. He is mine! It screams with 1,000 voices. They are all mine! The wind whips up to hurricane force. Snow and ice blast me from all sides. The ridge crumbles further. I need to reach that glowing heart. But how the creature blocks the entire path, and I can't go around. Then I remember what's in my pack. Emergency supplies, including thermite, a chemical flare that burns hot enough to melt through ice and snow if you're trapped in an avalanche. It burns at thousands of degrees. Nothing in nature burns that hot. Maybe that's why the creature fears it. I reach back, slowly, pretending to steady myself. My fingers find the thermite flare in my pack's side pocket. You've taken enough climbers, I tell the Yuki-onna. You've had your feast, but you made a mistake taking Alex. Why? The creature asks, curious. Now, what makes this one different? I tighten my grip on the flare and Alex's prayer beads together. Because I loved him, I say, and I'm not letting you keep him. The creature laughs. That terrible sound of cracking ice and screaming victims. Love? It mocks. Love did not save him from the avalanche. Love did not warm his frozen body. I preserved him. I gave him eternal life in ice. That's not life, I say, and it's not what he would want. I take a step forward on the crumbling ridge, then another. Stay back, the creature warns, but there's something new in its voice. Fear, it knows what I've figured out. The summit is its power source, but Alex is its weakness. My connection to him, our connection to each other, is something it can't corrupt or control. I take another step forward, and the ridge gives way beneath me. I fall, but only for a second. My hand catches the edge of the ridge, ice cutting into my already frostbitten fingers. Pain shoots up my arm, but I hold on. I can't fail now, not when I'm so close. David! This time, I'm sure it's really Alex's voice, not the monster using him like a puppet. Somehow, the real Alex is still in there, fighting. With strength I didn't know I had left, I pull myself back onto the narrow ridge. The Yuki-onna towers over me, its body of ice and frozen climbers blocking the path to the summit. Its blue fire eyes burn with hatred. You cannot save him, it growls. You could not save him then. You cannot save him now. You're right, I say, getting to my feet. I couldn't save him, but maybe he can save me. I grip the thermite flare in one hand, Alex's prayer beads in the other. With a quick motion, I strike the flare against the rough stone of the ridge. It sparks to life, burning with unnatural brightness. The creature recoils from the light and heat. For the first time, it looks afraid. What is this? It hisses. Fire, I say simply. The one thing you can't control. The Yuki-onna screams and lunges forward, trying to stop me, but it's too late. I throw myself at the creature, aiming for the glowing blue center where Alex's face is visible. The thermite flare hits its mark. The heat is incredible. Where the flare touches the creature's icy body, steam explodes outward. The ice doesn't just melt, it evaporates instantly. The Yuki-onna's scream is like nothing I've ever heard before. Not human, not animal. It's the sound of a mountain breaking apart, of glaciers carving, of winter itself dying. Its massive arms swing wildly, catching me across the chest. The impact sends me flying backward. I hit the ridge hard, the wind knocked out of me. The edges of my vision go dark from the pain, but the damage is done. The flare burns in the heart of the ice creature, melting it from the inside out. Cracks spread across its body like a spider web, blue light spilling from each one. David, Alex's face emerges from the melting ice more clearly now. His eyes find mine. It's okay, he says. Let go. I can't, I whisper. I couldn't save you. You couldn't because it wasn't your job to save me, Alex says. The mountain takes who it takes. That wasn't your fault. The Yuki Onna shrieks again, its body breaking apart. The blue glow at its center pulses brighter. If you destroy me, it threatens with its chorus of stolen voices. The mountain will have its revenge. Everything will come down. I know what it means. Avalanche. The heat from the flare, the creature's death throes, they'll trigger a massive snowslide. One that will bury everything, including me. Alex seems to know my thoughts. Go, David, down the north face, there's still time. But I shake my head. Not without you. I'm already gone, he says gently. Have been for 3 years. This isn't living. The Yuki Onna is coming apart now. Ice chunks falling away, revealing more faces, more bodies, all of them now waking up, looking around in confusion and fear. Let them go, I tell the creature, all of them. They are mine, it screams, but its voice is weaker now, fractured like its body. I pull myself to my feet, ignoring the pain, and face the dying ice monster. No, they never were. With the last of my strength, I reach out and touch Alex's face where it emerges from the ice. His skin is cold, but his eyes are warm, alive in a way they haven't been since I lost him. I'm sorry, I tell him. He smiles. Don't be. Just live. David, let go of the guilt. It was never yours to carry. The Yuki Onna gives one final terrible scream. The blue light at its center explodes outward. The force of it knocks me backward again. This time I can't catch myself. I fall. As I tumble through the air, I see the entire side of the mountain begin to move. The avalanche has started. Snow and ice rush down in a wall of white. The last thing I see before darkness takes me is Alex's face, finally free, smiling as he dissolves into light. My name is Jessica Hartwell. I'm 27 years old and work as a forest ranger in Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky. Today started like any other autumn day, but turned into something I'll never forget. The morning fog hung thick between the trees as I walked through Dead Man's Hollow. Most rangers avoid this place, but I've always felt drawn to it. The mist wrapped around the old oaks and maples like ghostly fingers, making everything look dreamlike and peaceful. I stopped by my favorite spot, where the creek bubbles over moss-covered rocks. The tall trees above created a natural cathedral of branches and colored leaves. Red, orange, and gold leaves drifted down around me. This place always felt like a sanctuary to me, a place where I could heal. This is why I came here, I whispered to myself, watching my breath cloud in the cool air. After everything that happened to me in Baltimore, nature was the only thing that made sense anymore. No evil, no pain, just the simple beauty of the forest. But something felt off today. I was halfway through my patrol when I noticed the silence. At first, I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Then it hit me. There were no sounds. No squirrels chattering, no birds singing, no insects buzzing, nothing. The hollow had fallen completely silent, like someone had pressed a mute button on the whole forest. My skin prickled with goosebumps. In my 2 years working here, I'd never experienced anything like this. I checked my watch, 1:30 p.m. The sun should have been high overhead, but the tree canopy blocked almost all the light, casting everything in a weird twilight. I swear I saw shadows moving on their own between the trees, sliding across the ground in ways shadows shouldn't move. I grabbed my radio to call the ranger station. This is Hartwell in Deadman's Hollow. Anyone copy? Nothing but static answered me. I tried again, adjusting the frequency. Station, do you read me? More static. I pulled out my cell phone. No. Signal, not even 1 bar. Great, I muttered, shoving the useless phone back into my pocket. The hollow had always been a dead zone, but my radio usually worked. Now I was completely cut off. A movement at the tree line caught my eye. A black bear stood watching me from about 50 yards away. But something was wrong with how it stood. Too upright, too still. Its eyes followed me with an intelligence that sent chills down my spine. Bears don't study people like that. They don't watch you like they're sizing up prey. The fog started getting thicker, which made no sense. The day was warming up, so the fog should have been burning off. Instead, it swirled in strange patterns, sometimes looking like reaching hands or faces for a split second before dissolving. I decided to head back to my station. The trail I'd walked hundreds of times now looked unfamiliar. The recent floods must have changed the landscape more than I realized. Twice, I nearly stepped into sinkholes that hadn't been there before, and once I found myself at the edge of a limestone cave opening that I'd never seen. With each step, a feeling of dread grew inside me. It wasn't just fear. It was deeper, more primal, like something ancient and terrible had woken up in the hollow, something that could sense the darkness I carried inside me, the trauma that followed me like a shadow. And whatever it was coming for me. I touched the saint, Michael pendant hanging around my neck, Robert's pendant, and pushed forward. The hollow seemed to close in around me, watching, waiting, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being hunted. 2 years ago, I wasn't a forest ranger. I was an FBI agent working in Baltimore. My partner Robert Kane and I were tracking a killer who the papers called the Butcher. He hurt people in terrible ways, keeping them alive for days while I can't even say it out loud anymore. We got close to catching him, too close. One night, we followed a lead to an old house in the country. We should have waited for backup, but we knew there might be someone inside who needed our help right away. That night still plays in my dreams. The basement smelled like chemicals and something worse. Robert went in first. He always went first. FBI, don't move, he shouted. Then came the sounds I'll never forget. The struggle, a gunshot, Robert, yelling for me to run. But I didn't run. I couldn't leave him. I barely remember what happened next. The Butcher was so fast, so strong. I felt the knife slash across my throat, not deep enough to kill me, but enough to make me bleed. More cuts across my arms as I tried to protect myself. Then a blow to my knee that shattered it completely. I remember looking up and seeing Robert. His face was determined, even though he was hurt worse than me. He grabbed the Butcher and threw himself against the old shelving units. Everything came crashing down. "Run, Jess!" Those were his last words to me. I crawled away, dragging my broken leg, leaving a trail of blood. Somehow I made it outside and called for help. By the time the police arrived, Robert was gone, and the Butcher was trapped under the collapsed shelves, alive but badly injured. He died in prison 2 years later. I watched them give him the injection. I needed to see it happen, to know it was real. His last words were, "I'll find you, Agent Hartwell. The darkness always finds you." I touched the scars on my neck. They're still sensitive, even after all this time. My knee aches when it rains, and sometimes my hands shake so badly I can't hold a cup of coffee. Robert's widow, Maria, gave me his St. Michael pendant at the funeral. "He would want you to have this," she said. "He always said it protected him." I promised her I would honor his sacrifice by protecting others. That's why I became a ranger, to protect people in a place where I thought evil couldn't reach. After the Butcher, I couldn't believe in people anymore. I saw too much, but I could. Believe in trees and rocks and rivers. Nature doesn't set out to hurt you on purpose. Nature just is. So I learned everything about Deadman's Hollow, every cave, every creek, every animal trail. I thought if I knew this place well enough, I would finally feel safe. But I'm never really safe. My mind won't let me be. I'm always looking over my shoulder, scanning for threats. My therapist calls it hypervigilance, a symptom of PTSD. I call it staying alive. Lately, though, it's been getting worse. I feel watched all the time here in the Hollow. At first, I thought it was just my damaged mind playing tricks. Now I'm not so sure. I keep my hand on my gun as I walk. The familiar weight of it makes me feel better. though I haven't fired it since that night in Baltimore. I've got wilderness, training and law enforcement experience. Whatever's out there, I can handle it. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. I stop to catch my breath and scan the trees again. The mist swirls around a massive oak tree, and for a second, I swear, I see a face in the bark watching me. I blink and it's gone. Get it together, Jess, I whisper to myself. It's just the woods, but a voice deep inside me knows better. The hollow has changed, or maybe it was always this way, and I'm only now seeing it for what it really is. I check my watch again. 2 hours have passed, but it feels like minutes. I need to get back to the ranger station before dark. In Dead Man's Hollow, when night falls, even the shadows have shadows. The smell hit me first. Something dead, mixed with a chemical smell that took me right back to that basement in Baltimore. My stomach turned as I followed the scent around. A bend in the trail. There, hanging from a low branch, was a deer, but something was terribly wrong. Its skin had been removed with clean, precise cuts. Not torn by animal teeth or claws. This was done with a knife or scalpel. Just like the butcher did to his victims. I stepped back, my hand flying to my mouth. "That's impossible," I whispered. The butcher was dead. I watched him die. But the cuts on this deer were exactly the same as the photos from his case files. I forced myself to look closer. The work was fresh, maybe only hours old. The ground beneath showed no animal tracks, only strange, barefoot human prints. But they weren't normal. The toes were too long, ending in what looked like claw marks in the soft earth. I knelt down to examine them, then froze. The silence that had bothered me earlier suddenly made perfect sense. There were no predators anywhere in the hollow. No coyotes, no hawks, nothing. Every natural hunter had fled. What could scare away an entire ecosystem of predators? My ranger station wasn't far. I needed my satellite phone, the one that might work even in this dead zone. I hurried down the trail, picking up my pace as much as my bad knee would allow. I stopped dead when I saw my station. Someone, or something, had been there. Footprints circled the small cabin, the same bare feet with long, clawed toes. They went around and around like whatever made them had been pacing, waiting for me. The smell was stronger here, rotting flesh and formaldehyde. The butcher used formaldehyde in his workshop. I knew that smell better than anyone. My breath came in short gasps as I pulled my gun from its holster. "Hello?" I called out. "This is Ranger Hartwell. Identify yourself." No answer. Just the wind. Through the trees. I remembered the Martinez family. They had a camping permit for the north side of the hollow. A mom, dad, and 2 kids. Around 10 years old, I needed to check on them. 20 minutes of hard hiking brought me to their campsite. The scene made my blood freeze. Their tent was destroyed, slashed open from the inside, like they were trying to escape something that had them trapped. Bloody handprints marked the trees nearby, small handprints, child-sized. "Hello, Mr. Martinez, Mrs. Martinez," I called out, my voice echoing in the unnatural quiet. I clicked on my flashlight to check inside the tent, but the light dimmed. Immediately, despite the fresh batteries I'd put in that morning, I pulled out my compass. The needle spun wildly, not pointing north or any direction at all. Even the laser sight on my gun flickered erratically when I switched it on. Then, I heard it, a whisper, so quiet I almost missed it. "Agent Hartwell." I spun around, gun raised. The voice was unmistakable, the same raspy whisper of the butcher. But that was impossible. "Show yourself," I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. Nothing moved. But as I turned back to the tent, I noticed something in the clearing beyond. Small animals, squirrels, rabbits, a raccoon, arranged in a circle, all freshly killed, all positioned exactly like the photos from the butcher's crime scenes. The blood was still warm when I touched it. My hands shook as I backed away. I needed to get help to get out of the hollow, but as I turned to go, I realized I didn't recognize where I was. The trail I'd followed to get here was gone. In its place was dense undergrowth, as if no path had ever existed. I tried another direction. Same thing. The hollow was changing around me, rearranging itself, trapping me. For an hour I wandered, trying to find my way out. Every path led me in circles, bringing me back to the destroyed campsite. The hollow had become a maze with no exit. Exhausted, I leaned against a tree to catch my breath. That's when I saw it, hanging from a branch right in front of my face. Robert's St. Michael pendant. I reached up with trembling fingers to touch. It was real, solid, but that was impossible because I was still wearing the pendant around my neck. I could feel its weight. I looked down. My pendant was gone. The forest seemed to hold its breath around me. Something was playing with me. Something that knew about the butcher, about Robert, about my deepest fears. And it was getting closer. The fog swirled in front of me, thickening until it was almost solid. Then it started to take shape. First came the outline of a tall man wearing an apron. Then details filled in. The bald head, the round glasses, the smile that never reached his eyes. I knew that face from my nightmares, the face of the butcher, exactly as he looked the night he attacked me. "No," I whispered, raising my gun with shaking hands. "You're dead. I watched you die." He tilted his head, that horrible smile widening. "Did you, Agent Hartwell? Are you sure about that?" His voice was perfect, the same raspy whisper that had taunted me in that basement. But something was wrong. For just a second, his eyes seemed to glow yellow in the dim light. Not human eyes at all. "What are you?" I demanded, keeping my gun trained on him. He laughed, and the sound sent ice through my veins. "I'm whatever you fear most, Jessica. Right now, that's him." He gestured to himself. "The man who broke you." As he moved, his form seemed to ripple like a reflection in disturbed water. For just a moment, I saw something else beneath the human shape, something much larger with fur and claws. "You're not the butcher," I said, my voice steadier now. Understanding was beginning to dawn. "You're something else, something pretending to be him." The thing wearing the butcher's face clapped slowly. "Very good, Agent, but knowing what I am won't save you." It stepped closer, and I fired my gun. The bullet passed right through him, as if he were made of smoke. He didn't even flinch. "Your turn," he said. He moved impossibly fast, suddenly right in front of me. Up close, I could see the cracks in his disguise. His skin sometimes looked like fur, his fingers too long and ending in claws. He reached for me, and I stumbled backward. My hand went to my neck, searching for Robert's pendant. It was back, somehow. I clutched it tightly, and the creature hissed, pulling back. "Interesting," it said, eyeing the pendant. "You carry protection you don't even understand." Its form shifted again, and suddenly I wasn't looking at the butcher anymore. I was looking at Robert. "Jess," he said in Robert's voice, perfect down to the way he always said my name, "you left me there to die." "No," I choked out. "You told me to run. You saved me. I saved you, and this is how you repay me, by forgetting me, by hiding in the woods instead of continuing our work." His face was full of disappointment. I knew it wasn't really Robert, but it looked like him, sounded like him, even smelled like his aftershave. "You're not him," I said, gripping the pendant tighter. "Robert is dead." The creature's face twisted with anger. "Yes, he is, because of you." Suddenly, I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was back in that basement in Baltimore. I could smell the chemicals, feel the cold concrete floor. The butcher stood over Robert's body, knife in hand. But it wasn't a memory. It was happening now, all over again. "This isn't real," I told myself. "It's making me see things." The basement flickered, and I was back in the hollow. The creature, whatever it was, watched me with hungry eyes. It wasn't just looking at me, it was feeding on my fear, growing stronger with every terrified heartbeat. "What do you want?" I asked. "What I've always wanted," it said, its voice. No longer human at all, but a deep growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Your pain, your fear, your guilt. I've been collecting souls like yours for centuries, people broken by trauma, carrying wounds so deep they never heal. It stepped forward again, and this time I could see its true form emerging through the human disguise. 7 feet tall, with the body of a bear but standing upright like a man. Its face was wolf-like, with a long snout and pointed ears, but its eyes were disturbingly human. Its hands were the worst part, almost human, but with long fingers ending, in razor-sharp claws. The trees around us seemed to bend toward the creature, branches reaching down like arms. Roots rose from the ground, wrapping around my ankles. The entire hollow was working with it, helping it hunt me. "The hollow is mine," it growled. "It helps me feed. And you, Jessica Hartwell, are the most delicious meal I've found in decades. Your trauma calls to me like a beacon. I tried to run, but the roots tightened, holding me in place. The creature came closer, its form shifting between the butcher, Robert, and its true monstrous self. "I'm going to enjoy breaking you completely," it said, "and then I'll add your soul to my collection." It pointed toward a dark opening in the ground, the entrance to a cave I hadn't noticed before. Deep inside, I could see faint lights, like glowing eyes in the darkness. Hundreds of them. "They're all waiting for you," the creature said. "All my previous meals. The Martinez family just joined them this morning. The children were especially sweet." Rage surged through me momentarily. Overpowering my fear, I yanked hard against the roots, breaking free. Without thinking, I swung the St. Michael pendant at the creature. It howled in pain where the metal touched its skin, recoiling with a hiss of burning flesh. "You'll pay for that," it snarled, but kept its distance from the pendant. I had found its weakness. Now I just had to figure out how to use it before the hollow itself swallowed me whole. The creature backed away, eyes fixed on the pendant. I held it out like a shield. "The cave," I said, remembering the glowing eyes. "That's where you keep them, isn't it? The souls you've taken?" It snarled but didn't deny it. I had to get to that cave, not to escape, but to end this, to free the Martinez family and whoever else this thing had trapped. I ran, not away from the beast, but toward the cave entrance. My bad knees screamed with every step, but adrenaline pushed me forward. Behind me, I heard the creature howl with rage. Then the sound of heavy paws pounding the earth. The cave mouth loomed ahead, a black gash in the hillside. I didn't slow down, just plunged into the darkness with the pendant clutched tightly in my hand. Inside, the air was cold and damp. The tunnel sloped downward, and I had to feel my way along the wall. My flashlight was useless. The batteries completely drained, but I didn't need light. The tunnel was lined with a faint glow, the same eerie lights I'd seen from outside. As my eyes adjusted, I realized what they were. Bones, human bones that glowed with a sickly green light. They lined the walls like trophies, thousands of them collected over what must have been centuries. The tunnel opened into a large chamber. In the center was what looked like a nest made of clothes, jewelry, and personal items. Things that had belonged to the creature's victims. I spotted a child's backpack that must have belonged to one of the Martinez kids. The glowing eyes I'd seen weren't eyes at all. They were small flames, hundreds of them hovering in the air throughout the cave. Each one a different color, each one moving with purpose. Souls, the trapped souls of everyone the creature had. Taken. "They can never leave," the beast said from behind me. It filled the tunnel entrance, blocking my escape. "And neither can you." It lunged forward, claws extended. I dodged, but not fast enough. Its claws raked across my ribs, tearing through my jacket and shirt. The pain was like fire, but different from any injury I'd ever felt. It burned inside my mind, forcing me to relive Robert's death in vivid detail. I could see his face, hear his voice telling me to run. feel the guilt all over again. I fell to my knees, clutching my side. The creature circled me slowly. "Your guilt is delicious," it said. "Your self-blame feeds me more than your fear." It was right. I'd been blaming myself for years. For surviving when Robert didn't. For not being able to save him. But as the memories flooded through me again, I saw something I'd missed before. In that basement, Robert hadn't looked afraid when he told me to run. He'd looked determined, purposeful. His sacrifice wasn't my failure. It was his choice. "You're wrong," I told the creature, struggling to my feet. "I don't blame myself anymore." The beast growled, confused by the change in me. "You can't just decide not to feel guilty. I can taste it in you." "Watch me," I said. I thought of Robert, not his death, but his life, his laugh, the way he always had my back. His sacrifice wasn't meaningless. It gave me a chance to live. As this realization washed over me, I felt something warm in my hand. The St. Michael pendant was glowing with a soft blue light, and I wasn't alone anymore. A figure stood beside me, transparent but unmistakable. Robert. Not the creature's twisted version, but him as he really was. He smiled at me and nodded toward the nest in the center of the cave. I understood. The creature kept trophies from all its victims, things with emotional connections. Those connections were keeping the souls trapped here. "It's time to end this," I said. The beast roared and charged at me. I ducked under its massive arm and ran for the nest, pendant held. High. The blue light grew brighter, and the creature shrieked in pain. I reached the pile of belongings and pressed the pendant against them. "For Robert," I whispered. "For the Martinez family. For everyone you've taken." The pendant burst into flames. Not normal fire, but blue flames that didn't burn my hand. The fire spread to the nest, catching on the clothes and personal items. The creature screamed, a sound like nothing I'd ever heard. It tried to reach the burning nest, but couldn't get close to the blue flames. As the fire consumed the trophies, the floating lights, the souls began to brighten. One by one they rose toward the ceiling, disappearing into the rock above. Free. The beast thrashed wildly, its form shifting between human and animal as it weakened. The cave shook with its rage, rocks falling from the ceiling. "The cave is collapsing," I shouted to Robert's ghost. "We need to get out." He pointed to a narrow tunnel I hadn't noticed before. I ran for it as larger rocks began to fall. Behind me, the creature let out one final howl before a massive boulder crushed it. The tunnel was tight and partly flooded. I waded through cold water, following the gentle blue light that seemed to come from Robert's ghost ahead of me. Finally, I saw daylight. I crawled out of the cave into the forest, gasping for breath. The ground was still shaking, the entire hollow rumbling as the cave system collapsed beneath it. When it finally stopped, everything was quiet. But not the unnatural silence from before. I could hear birds singing, insects buzzing, normal forest sounds. Robert's ghost stood before me, more transparent now, fading. "Thank you," I said, "for saving me. Again," he smiled. "Live, Jess," he said, his voice faint like a breeze through leaves. "That's all I ever wanted." Then he was gone. I touched the St. Michael pendant, still hanging around my neck. The blue glow had faded, but it felt warm against my skin. My side still hurt where the creature had clawed me, but the wound was just physical now. The psychological fire was gone. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the crushing weight of guilt when I thought of Robert. I looked around at Dead Man's Hollow. It was just a forest now, beautiful, peaceful, not a place of evil, but not a perfect sanctuary either. Just nature, doing what nature does. 6 months later, I'm still a ranger here. People ask why I stay after what happened. The official story is that a flash flood trapped the Martinez family and I was unable to save them. Only I know the truth. I stay because someone needs to watch this place, to make sure nothing else awakens in its depths, and because for the first time since that night in Baltimore, I'm not running from my past. The hollow has changed me. My physical scars remain. The knife wounds from the butcher, my bad knee, and now the claw marks across my ribs. But the invisible wounds are finally healing. Sometimes, when the fog rolls in and the hollow grows quiet, I feel a presence. Not the creature. That's gone forever. Something protective, watching over this place. Over me. I touch the pendant and whisper, "I'm still here, Robert, still living." And in the gentle rustle of leaves, I almost hear his reply. My name is Frank Morrison. I've been a park ranger here in the Adirondacks for almost 5 years now. After what I saw in the war, I needed a place where things made sense again, where I could feel, I don't know, whole again. This morning started like any other. I woke up before sunrise and walked down to Mirror Lake with a cup of coffee, steam rising from both the lake and my mug. The water was perfectly still, like glass, and I could hear the loons calling to each other. Their cries always sound a bit sad to me, like they're looking for something they've lost. I sat on my favorite log and watched the sky change colors. The old hemlock trees around me creaked in the light September breeze. Their shadows danced across my face as the sun started to peek over the mountains. For a moment, I felt peaceful, really peaceful. For the first time since Normandy, I thought maybe the nightmares would finally stop. A raven landed on a rock near me, big black bird staring at me with those eyes that seemed to know too much. It didn't make a sound, just watched me, then flew off without a warning. I don't know why, but it gave me chills. The sun finally cleared the mountains, painting everything in a deep red light. Blood red. I shivered even though I was wearing my thick wool jacket. Something felt off. I checked my radio, but all I got was static. That's normal out here. We're 30 miles from the nearest town, and the mountains block most signals. Still, the crackling noise bothered me more than usual today. A little chipmunk scurried up to my boots, curious little guy, but then he froze, his tiny body going stiff. In a flash, he was gone, running like something was chasing him. But there was nothing there. Nothing I could see anyway. That's when the fog started rolling in from the north. Now, I've seen plenty of fog in these mountains, but this was different. Thicker, and it carried a smell that made my stomach turn. Like something had died and been sitting in the sun too long. I stood up and looked at the trail ahead. It disappeared into thick bushes and fallen trees that formed a kind of natural maze. I've walked these paths 1,000 times, but today they looked wrong somehow. Then I noticed the silence, complete silence, no birds, no insects buzzing, nothing. In 20 years of working outdoors, I've never heard a forest this quiet. Something was very, very wrong in my woods. I looked down at my hands as I gripped my walking stick. They were shaking a bit. They always do when the weather turns cold. The doctors say it's from the shrapnel, tiny pieces of metal still stuck inside from when a shell exploded too close during the war. Sometimes I forget they're there until the aching starts. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small brass compass. It wasn't mine. It belonged to my son, Tommy. He carried it with him to Korea and never came back. 3 years gone now. The compass is all I have left of him. All I have left of anyone, really. Last night, I had the dream again. The one where I'm back in France, and the artillery is so loud I can't hear myself scream. I woke up in a cold sweat, just like always. That's why I came out here when I got back from the war. The quiet of the forest was the only thing that seemed to help. Until today, when the quiet felt wrong. I rubbed my beard, feeling the scar underneath. German shrapnel took a chunk out of my cheek and messed up my left eye. The doctors did their best, but I still can't see right when things get dim. Not great for a park ranger, but I manage. What? "Do you think, Rex?" I asked, looking down at my German Shepherd. He was a good dog, smart. Sometimes when I look at him, I remember the K9 units from the war. Those dogs saved a lot of lives. Rex tilted his head. His ears perked up. He was listening for something I couldn't hear. I touched the knife on my belt, my father's hunting knife with the ivory handle. Dad and I used to hunt these woods when I was a boy. Those were good days, simple days, before the world went mad. Something wasn't right. I know these mountains like I know my own face, every trail, every stream, every sound the animals make. But today, everything felt different, wrong. Like the forest itself had changed overnight. Part of me wanted to turn back, head to my cabin and radio for backup. But I've never been one to retreat. That stubbornness kept me alive in Normandy, when others weren't so lucky. Now, I was starting to wonder if it might get me killed. Whatever was out here, I had a bad feeling it was worse than anything I'd faced in the war. And that's saying something. For the first time since those bloody beaches in France, I felt like prey. I'd spent my life as either a hunter or a soldier, always the one doing the chasing. But right now, standing in these silent woods with that strange fog creeping around my boots, I knew something was watching me, hunting me. I took a deep breath and adjusted my pack. Whatever it was, I had a job to do. These woods were my responsibility. If something dangerous was out here, I needed to find it before some unlucky hikers did. "Come on, Rex," I said, my voice sounding too loud in the silence. "Let's see what we're dealing with." I froze in my tracks. There in the soft dirt of the trail were footprints, but not normal footprints. These were huge, at least 18 inches long, and at the end of each toe mark were deep cuts in the earth, like whatever made them had claws. Big ones. "What do you make of this, Rex?" I whispered. Rex didn't answer. He was standing still as a statue, his ears flat against his head. A low whimper came from his throat. When I tried to move forward, he wouldn't budge. Rex, who'd chase a bear without thinking, twice was scared. I looked up at the trees around us. About 12 feet up, several branches were snapped and hanging loose. Whatever broke them had to be tall, really tall. No bear I'd ever seen could reach that high. Then the smell hit me, sweet but rotten, like meat left too long in the sun, mixed with something that reminded me of burning matches. My stomach turned, and I had to breathe through my mouth to keep from gagging. A few yards ahead, something bright caught my eye. A red backpack was lying on its side, contents spilled out across the path. Clothes, water bottles, a map, all scattered like someone had left in a hurry or been dragged away. Dark stains covered the fabric. I touched one with my fingertip. Still sticky, blood. I pulled out my compass, hoping to get my bearings and radio for help once I reached higher ground. The needle spun wildly, pointing north, then south, then everywhere in between. Never in all my years had I seen anything like it. That's when I heard it. A slow, deep breathing coming from somewhere in the trees. Inhale, long pause, exhale. Too slow for a human or any animal I knew. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded small in the thick fog. No answer. I pushed forward, and about 50 yards later I found what was left of a deer. Its body was torn open, with bite marks along the ribcage that were as wide as my hand. No mountain lion or wolf could make a bite that size. The fog was getting thicker by the minute. I could barely see 20 feet ahead now. Sounds seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I turned to head back to the ranger station to get help, but nothing looked familiar anymore. The trail I'd followed my whole career now led to dead ends, places where there shouldn't be dead ends. It was like the forest itself had rearranged while I wasn't looking. "Easy, Rex," I said, trying to sound calmer than I felt. "We'll find our way out." But as the fog closed in around us and that strange breathing grew louder, I wasn't so sure. For the first time in my life, I felt lost in my own woods, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, following me, enjoying my confusion, playing with me like a cat with a mouse. I gripped my rifle tighter and tried to ignore the voice in my head that kept saying I was going to need a lot more than bullets before this day was through. I squinted through the fog, trying to find a path that made sense. That's when I saw it, or part of it. Between two tall pines stood something massive. It was covered in what looked like fur, but matted and dark, with what might have been mud or blood. I froze. So did Rex. Two yellow eyes glowed in the mist, fixed right on me. Not like animal eyes that shine in the dark. These were different. They had a glow that came from inside, like tiny lanterns, and they were smart eyes, watching, thinking. As the fog shifted, I could see more of it. The thing was huge, at least 9 feet tall. Its arms hung down too long, with fingers that nearly touched the ground. I'd never seen anything like it in all my years in these woods or anywhere else. "Hello?" I called out, part of me hoping it was just a man in strange clothes. "Park ranger, do you need help?" No answer, just those eyes, watching. Then I heard something that turned my blood to ice. "Daddy? Help me, please!" It was Tommy's voice, my dead son's voice, exactly as I remembered it. I must have made a sound because Rex pressed against my leg, whimpering. I put my hand on his head to steady myself. "That's not real," I whispered. "Tommy's gone." The thing in the trees moved suddenly. With one swing of its arm, it ripped a small tree right out of the ground, roots and all, and tossed it across the path behind me. The message was clear. No going back. I raised my rifle and fired twice. The bullets went straight through the creature as if it was made of fog. It didn't even flinch. Then it was gone. No sound, no movement, just gone. Something that big shouldn't be able to move so quietly. "Rex, stay close," I said, my voice shaking. We moved forward slowly, every step careful. The fog seemed to move, with us, keeping everything just out of clear view. Suddenly a howl split the air, not like a wolf or any animal I'd ever heard. It was deep and wrong somehow, like it came from somewhere that wasn't quite our world. Rex collapsed beside me, yelping in pain. Blood trickled from his ears. The sound had hurt him somehow. I knelt beside him, my heart pounding. "It's okay, boy. We'll get out of here." When I looked up, I realized where we were. The fog had cleared, just enough to show a small clearing ahead, and the clearing was filled with bones, human bones. Dozens of skulls and rib cages scattered like firewood. The fog thickened again when I tried to turn around. Every direction I tried to go, the mist would close in completely, forcing me toward the clearing, toward the bones. It was herding me. I picked up Rex, who was still whimpering, and cradled him in my arms. He wasn't a small dog, and my old war wound screamed in protest, but I wasn't leaving him behind. "Tommy?" the voice called again, sounding just like my boy when he was scared. "Why won't you help me, Daddy?" "You're not him," I said through gritted teeth. "You're not my son." The yellow eyes appeared again, closer now. I could smell its breath, like meat gone bad and something burning. I backed away slowly, Rex heavy in my arms. Through the trees I spotted something, an old hunting cabin. I'd forgotten it was here, hadn't been inside in years, but right now, 4 walls and a door seemed like the best chance we had. I ran, euphoric, feeling those eyes watching me the whole way. I burst through the cabin door, Rex still in my arms. Inside, everything was covered in dust and cobwebs. Nobody had been here in years. I set Rex down gently on an old blanket and started moving fast. "Got to block the door," I muttered, shoving a heavy wooden table against it. Then a chair, then anything else I could find. Rex was on his feet now, shaky but alert, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. I looked up. Dust was falling through the old wooden boards as something heavy moved across the roof. I checked my rifle, knowing the bullets wouldn't help, but not knowing what else to do. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it. The old pain in my side where I'd been hit during the war flared up, hot and sharp. A terrible sound came from above, wood splintering as something tore through the roof. Moonlight poured in through a hole, and then a massive shape dropped into the cabin. It moved so fast I could hardly see it. The creature stood in the middle of the room, yellow eyes fixed on me. It was even bigger up close, taller than any man I'd ever seen, with long arms and matted fur caked with dirt and blood. Its mouth opened to show teeth like a bear's, but bigger, sharper. "You're not real," I said, backing away. "You can't be real." It tilted its head, almost like it was curious. Then it spoke in Tommy's voice again. "Dad, why did you let me die?" Something snapped inside me, a mix of fear and rage that I hadn't felt since the war. I lunged at the thing, swinging my rifle like a club. It battered me away like I was nothing. I hit the wall hard, feeling ribs crack. The pain was blinding. As I struggled to get up, I spotted an old kerosene lantern hanging on a hook. I remembered how the creature had tossed that tree, how strong it was, but maybe, just maybe. I crawled toward the lantern, each movement sending fire through my broken ribs. The creature watched, almost playing with me, letting me move. "Why are you in my woods?" I gasped. "What do you want?" It didn't answer, just stepped closer, its breath fogging in the cold air of the cabin. Rex suddenly sprang into action, leaping at the creature's legs, teeth bared. The beast swung at him, but Rex was quick, darting away and then attacking again. He was buying me time. I reached the lantern and grabbed it with shaking hands. There was still oil inside. I could feel it sloshing around. I fumbled for my matches. The creature caught Rex with a swipe of its massive hand, sending him flying across the room. He hit the wall with a yelp and lay still. "No!" I shouted. I struck a match and lit the lantern wick. It flared to life, casting long shadows across the cabin. The creature turned back to me, reaching out with those two long arms, but it hesitated when it saw the flame. Its eyes reflected the fire, and for the first time, I saw something there besides hunger. Fear. I threw the lantern with all my strength. It shattered against the creature's chest, kerosene splashing over its fur. The flame caught immediately. Fire raced across its body. The howl it let out shook the whole cabin. Windows shattered. I covered my ears, falling to my knees from the pain of the sound. The burning creature thrashed around, setting fire to the walls, the floor, everything it touched. The entire cabin was going up in flames. I had to get out. I crawled to Rex, who was breathing but hurt bad. I picked him up, ignoring the stabbing pain in my side, and looked for a way out. The door was blocked by burning debris. The creature stood between us and the hole in the roof, still howling as it burned. "Hang on, Rex," I whispered. I wrapped him in the blanket to protect him from the flames and charged toward the nearest window. Glass cut my face as we crashed through, landing hard on the ground outside. I rolled away from the cabin, still holding Rex. As the fire grew higher, the creature's screams got louder, then suddenly stopped. The sound of the scream seemed to echo across the mountains, starting small avalanches in the distance. I lay there in the dirt, bleeding and broken, watching the cabin burn with the monster inside it. Rex licked my hand weakly. "We did it, boy," I said, stroking his fur. "We made it."